Day 2. I woke up with a start, my claws cramping from having accidentally held my pen all night, and I realised the room was spinning. Not wanting to open my eyes and be involved in whatever was happening, I kept them tight shut until a pair of hooves lifted me up and carried me to safety. "Squash!" the voice shouted. "Here, let me help you."
"This place is crazy!"
I heard the voice say as he got lifted into the air.
"Now put me to the down!"
And a lot of swear words.
What did it?
I could hear his Agrosian feet scampering off. He was heading out to sunbathe again, I presumed. Then I found myself being lifted by the tail to safety on the floor. I kept my eyes closed as I murmured my thanks. "You next, Robin," said the voice as I heard the familiar clitter-clatter of a Clandusprod clambering over me to pick up my sleeping companion. What? She said with a start. "Wait, the whole room's moving." I opened one eye cautiously and saw that she was right. The caretaker must have pressed the button that turned our night bedroom to a day hall, and now all the furniture was moving around the room and feeding back into the walls. So far during my time on Orpheus, I had always missed this spectacle, being rather keen to break away from the rest of my class and enjoy some quiet time as far away from people as possible. But today something had made me sleep in. Why hadn't my instinct, running through me even in sleep, been to break away this time? Had it been all the writing I had been doing? The fact that I wasn't the newest anymore? That I suddenly felt strangely safe with Robin now here as a companion? Or something else? My revelry was broken by shouts and screams from my two companions. "Hermione! Wake up, Hermione! Wake up right now!" Squishing one eye half open again, I saw the Habridat pushed out of a hammock by the wall, like the filling in a Doosbury's pastry, as she plummeted through the air. I desperately wanted to help, but found myself rooted to the spot, not knowing what to do. I winced, waiting for the impact, but the Habridat's wings started working centimetres from the floor, and without skipping a beat or waking up, she righted herself up and landed on top of Squash right by the door, who chattered away angrily again, while Hermione continued to snore deeply.
"Mrs. Maggrumph,"
said Margalo, speaking into a camera and simultaneously filming the chaos.
"You'll never guess what's happened. Those lazy so-and-sos."
"I was my detective,"
came the voice on the other end of the line. Margalo smiled. "The cheek of it," said Lando. "The rest of us aren't even allowed a phone, and there she goes prancing around with it. It's enough to make you sick." He went to yell at Margalo. "I bet you've not even got any friends to call on that thing, not like the rest of us." That did it. Margalo came over and stood over us threateningly.
"One more word not having you on detention soon, and you'll forget what the sky looks like. Now move. You make the place look untidy."
She wandered off, whistling nonchalantly. "Every time," sighed Lando to himself as she righted Hermione the correct way up again and patted Squash on the head. "We need a sign over that says, 'Watch out for flying Habridat.'" "Shouldn't we get help?" asked Robin, tying up her shoelaces. Said Hermione, waking up and shaking her feathers and thanking Lando.
"Who from?"
"I don't know," said Robin, retying his shoelaces. "A grown-up?" Hermione scoffed.
"Haven't you noticed yet, Penguin? The adults here have no interest in us, our well-being, or welfare. Even the nice Clandusprod one is only interested in us when we're in lessons. He's actually quite mean away from them. It's really weird. I always thought being left to your own devices as a child would be great, but it isn't. There's no one here to keep us safe, except Lando here, and no child should have to look after 10 other children."
"I do my best," the Clandusprod blushed, his purple spots turning red. "It is a full-time job for her. I shouldn't really be doing it."
"Good job somebody is, or goodness knows what we do. We probably all turn feral,"
said Hermione darkly. "So there are no adults around at all if we get into trouble?" asked Robin. "Even outside the hall?"
"Locked,"
said Hermione.
"They don't allow us to stray too far. They won't talk about why either. We're all tucked up away in our own rooms all the time. Ensconce, the teachers call it, as if that makes it sound cosy, when really it just means imprisoned. That way we're easier for them to catalogue. That's all they're doing with these cameras, I'm sure."
Robin felt a tap on her shoulder, even though she clearly didn't sense anyone there. She turned round quickly, only to see Squash looking oddly relaxed. She went back to what she was doing, only to feel a tug on her other shoulder. Looking back the other way, she saw Squash whistling. Robin picked up a sticker book, which had fallen to the floor, only to feel taps on both her shoulders. What is going on? She cried.
Made you look.
Cackled Squash.
You're it. Ha!
Oh, said Robin with a giggle. I'm it, am I? She ran to chase the Agrosian, who dodged her, also giggling. The human's longer legs allowed her to catch up with him and head him off at the corner. Robin, who knew just a little about each species, was a bit wary of tagging the Agrosian back in case he bit her, but he just laughed and told her well done.
Aggression.
He said,
Nice.
and gnashed his teeth a little. You took that well, she said, relieved. He shrugged his shoulders.
I'm good. Well done.
Robin continued, I thought all Agrosians were all hugely aggressive. He shrugged again.
I'm feeling quite even-tempered today. The sun's out, I'm with my friends. It's nearly weekend.
It's Tuesday, said Robin, perplexed.
Somehow nothing seems to matter too much anymore.
Oh,
Said Hermione.
that's nice.
She grinned. You're not in the least bit competitive if, I was to beat you running outside. Squash grinned.
You're on. Race you to the sunny patch in the yard.
They both ran hard to go outside, only to pull up at the last minute when they found the door locked. Robin pulling up just in time, and Squash going headlong into the door.
Ouch.
She said, rubbing his nose. Why? She asked. This was open last night, wasn't it? I didn't see anybody come in to lock it again. Lando came from behind and laughed. Oh, not you two. You mean Elfrida's mysterious stranger? She's convinced someone comes in during the night and locks that door and we're asleep, so we can't get out until after lessons. I say she's got too much imagination. Oh, said Robin, trying to remember what had happened on a scalded earth. I guess it makes sense if the adults don't want us to run away. But why do they do it when we're all asleep? Why do we never see them? Elfrida floated down from the window she'd been peering out, unseen, clearly eager to talk about something she was tired of being shushed about.
That's not all they do either. They do all sorts of weird things. They seem to be checking on temperatures, and blood pressure, and heartbeats, and lots of weird stuff like that while you're sleeping. Sometimes they go to the walls and press buttons. Once I even thought I saw them installing a microphone.
You were dreaming again, Elfrida,
Said Hermione dismissively.
You were dreamy enough in the day. It's bound to affect you at night time too.
I was not.
Said Elfrida, stamping her feet and rubbing her back legs together to make the sort of crickety sound she always made when she was upset.
I get to see things from up here that the rest of you don't.
Has no one else woken up and noticed anything? Asked Robin. Orlando and Hermione shook their heads. She turned back to Elfrida, who shrugged.
I have insomnia.
She said.
An awful lot of Mrasianarts do, so I tend to get less sleep than the rest of you. I do seem to check if anyone is awake first. Sleeping away out there on the roulette board on my own, I guess they forget about me. That does seem to happen rather a lot to me.
She continued sadly. But why lock us in? Asked Lando. And then check up on us. That would sound like they care. But so far nothing else they've done shows that they care. Except Mr. Clandusprod. Sometimes. Robin remembered that name from a brief meeting yesterday. Is he your dad? She asked. The way Mrs. Maggrumph is Margalo's mum. No, said Lando quickly, as if he'd been asked this before, lots of times. There's more than one of us Clandusprods out there, There's no favouritism just because he's a Clandusprod, if that's what you're thinking. He wasn't even in my cave clan. I'm an entertainer by trade, not an educator. Sorry, said Robin quickly. Lando smiled. No bother, Penguin. I've just taken stick about that before. Elfrida had flown up to her perch on the whiteboard and was looking outside again.
There's a beautiful universe out there we're just not being allowed to see. It's a crying shame. All those hills going unrolled, those streams going unsplashed, those roads going untrodden. Each and every day, while we sit here vegetating, confined to the same four walls, and being taught ways to trap ourselves when all that freedom exists outside. I'm sorry none of you can see the little of this world that I do.
I'm not,
Said Hermione.
I'd rather not be reminded of all I've lost.
There was a pause, and Hermione spoke in a much lighter, more naturally Habridat tone.
Any more of those mysterious visitors out there today, Elfrida?
You see people outside? In the daytime? Asked Robin. After several abortive attempts, was finally giving up on tying his shoelaces.
It's hard to make them out, but at least one of them had multiple heads. There's a sort of distant rumble that sounds like a shuttle taking off or landing, but I can never quite catch it. The people in it have definitely come from here, though. You can hear the front gate squeaking sometimes.
Well, said Lando, tying Robin's shoelaces for her, maybe they're getting supplies for us all. Hermione grimaced.
Not likely. We only do that once a week, remember? And make enough noise about it when we do come. And tough luck if we run out of something early. If Elfrida's right, these shuttles are coming here every night. And even Bettina doesn't break that many things.
That's not all, though,
said Elfrida falteringly.
Sometimes, round the corner of my eye, I can see a glow. Sometimes outside, low on the ground. Sometimes inside. I can just see it through the ventilation shaft.
A glow? Asked Robin, who had now had second thoughts and had decided to start fiddling with her shoelaces again. What sort of glow? When Mrasianart shrugged her chitinous body.
I don't know,
She said.
It's always just out of eye shot. I can't quite place the colour. It's definitely not down the violet roulette end of the colour spectrum, though it must be down the other side that Mrasians can't see as clearly. What I really need is someone who can see reds and oranges to come view it with me. Hermione can't see it either. She's tried, and no one else can fly.
I would be able to see that, said Robin. Shame it's so high up, though. How would I even get up there? Just then a bell started ringing.
Oh,
said Bettina.
lessons already. What a waste of a nice-looking morning. And Mrs. Maggrumph too. That's enough to kill off any good mood, that is.
Right on cue, Archulus was standing at the door to the side room that had once been the kitchen, with Jake at his feet. Wordlessly he handed out a copy of the school timetable to Robin, who gaped. I can't do all these lessons. I've never even heard of half of them. She leafed through to the back. Margalo pushed to the front of the queue.
I hope you ordered your extra homework last night.
She asked. Everyone looked blank. She pulled a face.
Oh, did I forget to tell you about it? Sorry, I stayed behind to ask for some especially. Did I forget to pass it on? I guess that's no more house points for any of you. I'm going to enjoy the school trip on my own.
The others were not impressed, but the teacher was too close to earshot for them to react just yet. In the rest of the queue, XXXX lined up behind Archulus, munching and clutching a bag of Doosbury breakfast doughnuts he passed round the class, while the others ambled in behind him. I took mine gratefully and held it out while XXXX poured some milk over it. The others ate theirs too, Robin gingerly, with confusion on her face owing to the clash of flavours, whilst Bettina was passing hers between her three heads. Squash was attacking his with his front teeth, and the others nibbled at theirs. I could see Robin goggle at how differently the kitchen classroom now looked, the main table gone and replaced by 11 neat desks in a row, the extra space being filled by XXXXX's desk, which was the size of two of the others. At the front there were 3 giant boards, a blackboard, a whiteboard, and a roulette board, which all lit up with whatever the teacher wrote on one, all the better for different species' eyesight apparently, so we could learn quicker. With it as much attention has been spent on our comfort, starting with the uniforms and food. Where do I sit? Whispered Robin to Lando. Is it like the common room and the kitchen? Do we each have a desk? Our seats get chosen for us at random each day to stop us cheating or nattering or forming special friendships or something, whispered Lando back. The caretaker moves them. You'll soon know which desk is yours because it will only fit you. Oh, I do believe you're sat in the front row between me and Colin. Phew, smiled Robin. I'm glad it's with you two. We smiled back. Just ask me if you need any help, whispered Lando. Mrs. Maggrumph has a bit of a short temper.
Not half. It's practically human size.
Whispered Hermione, grinning, as she leaned back in a chair so that at least 3 of her legs lifted off the floor. In walked Mrs. Maggrumph at the front, all lipstick, high heels and antlers, staring at her watch, a special sword with 11 dials for all the planets.
You're late. Great,
she said sarcastically.
Homework in now, in order of size.
Only Margalo got out of a chair. Mrs. Maggrumph looked at the rest of the class.
Not done. No, there's a surprise. No house points yet again for the rest of you lot. In fact, I think I'm going to take a few off.
She made a few notes on a scrap of paper and then walked over to the front row where Robin was sitting and stared straight at her. No, not at her, through her, while the human shrank back in a chair.
I'd nearly forgotten. New prey, starting today. You better behave, human creature. Take notes of all our teacher. After yesterday, I've already marked your collar, so you better work extremely hard. There's no excuse for lazy or shoddy work. I won't betide you if you so much as smoke. Step 1 foot out of line, and you will soon see just what disobedience means to me. Remember, you are nothing. I hold all the power, and I can keep you here, hour after hour. I almost hope you test my wrath.
She turned away from Robin back to the whole class.
Today is English, PE, and perhaps math. Tomorrow, art and science. Now remember, I expect total compliance. Always, teacher, you adorable creature,
smiled Margalo, smiling sickly.
Excellent. Another point to Team Maggrumph there. I love this system. It's so totally fair,
said Mrs. Maggrumph, heading towards Margalo with an object.
Here's your style, so we others can see how clever you are.
But, started Lando.
What's that? Do you want to lose another point for Team Clandusprod?
No fear, said Lando quickly. I'm already on minus numbers and I can't count that high. I mean low. You know what I mean.
You are all currently on negative sum,
said Mrs. Maggrumph.
The highest of you is Robin, on -1.
-1?
asked Bettina.
She's only been in your class a minute.
Yes,
said Mrs. Maggrumph.
and it wasn't a very productive minute in my class. You wouldn't have known she was in it. You, human, your shoelaces have come undone. That's why I've taken off a point. I'm not having untidiness from anyone.
Robin turned an interesting shade of red and bent down to do them up, pulling herself up from a chair as she did so.
You sat in that chair far too heavily. I don't think you're being awfully cleverly.
Robin gulped. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I couldn't help it.
Are you ill? Sit still,
barked Mrs. Maggrumph. I'm sorry, Mrs. Robin corrected herself. I've always struggled with posture. It's my dyspraxia, you see. I don't really know where my body is. Mrs. Maggrumph harumphed.
Your body's right there, you stupid child. This class truly drives me wild. 100 lines. I will sit still in class and not be such a stupid ass.
Despite her vow of toughness and my lack of understanding of human biology, I could tell Robin was trying not to cry. Mrs. Maggrumph carried on, seemingly oblivious to the effect her words had just had, in the same way that a machine gun ploughs on even after it has run out of people to shoot.
Now open up your books. Let's take a look.
What page?
Asked Bettina. She shrugged.
Page 3? It's all the same to me. We've done that one.
Groaned Hermione.
Twice. It's pointless learning something we already know and understand.
That page is now outdated and irrelevant, and has been replaced by new insight into centrifugal forces of the Mrasianart body,
said Elfrida. Mrs. Maggrumph shrugged.
Oh, you drive my temper to strong from mild. What do you know? You're just a child.
I have that body,
said Elfrida.
I read all the science magazines on Mars. That's how I know.
She's right,
added Archibald.
There was a zero in the wrong place when carbon dating the ancestral exoskeleton for the first edition of this book. They made our science papers too. Fact.
You're both children,
snarled Mrs. Maggrumph.
Your mind's bewildering. Adults are never wrong, at least not for very long.
Look at when this book was printed,
said Elfrida.
2153. That's several generations ago. You might as well be teaching religion instead of science in schools, or evolution as a closed theory, the way things used to be. There's no point teaching the adults of tomorrow the facts of yesterday if they've proved to be false today.
Mrs. Maggrumph stared Elfrida down.
I'm trying to teach without interruptions. Minus a point each. Look, using the book gives me an easier leaf at life. I don't care if it causes grief, whatever. But if you wish, we will move on to language. Here's our story I want you to write over and over until you get it right. Billy Belobrat in his blue hat. He lives on a planet with 3 corners, on a part of the globe where it's always warmer.
Yes, and he's a great big net. There's something dull, he'll be doing it,
whispered Bettina to much giggles.
Don't be such a stupid ass. Stop sharing your jokes with the rest of the class,
said Mrs. Maggrumph without missing a stride.
These books are for children. Young children, I mean, not us. They're for toddlers. I have a reading age of 7,003,
complained Frida.
In human years.
But it should be easy for you to do again. No need to complain,
said Mrs. Maggrumph.
Now, neatest handwriting, remember, or I'll keep you here till next semester.
5C got on with her work. I found it easy compared to what I'd been learning on Camalosian. Billy bought a new hat because his first one blew away in the wind, only to find Glenda Glabdiharbit in a green hat caught it and handed it back to him, while Miranda Mekkion and her maroon hat helped adapt it into a hat catcher that magnetically collected it so that it went back on top of his head using a special polarity device. Hardly taxing, as literature goes, and I had my claw up to hand my work in before most people had got through the first sentence. Instead, I got on with writing down what everyone else was doing, which was much more interesting. Hermione was leaning back on a chair again and trying not to fall over. Bettina was secretly blowing bubble gum with all three heads. Lando was sucking the end of his pencil, thoughtfully. Jake was sitting under his desk, terrified of the jeopardy in the story.
His poor hand!
He kept sobbing. Elfrida was staring out the window with a mystical look in her eyes, as if she was imagining something else none of us could see. XXXX was eating the pastries he'd smuggled into his satchel when no one was looking. Squash was stamping on a space bug that had been clawing across his desk. Archibald had decorated his paper with a list of prime numbers, and Margalo was concentrating hard, with a pencil in each antler. Robin was harder to read. She kept writing fiercely and seemed to be super intelligent like me, Elfrida and Archibald, but then she kept rubbing things out and sighing like Lando, as if she got something wrong. The class was only interrupted by Hermione falling asleep and onto the floor. Mrs. Maggrumph hauled her up and put her back in the seat.
Habridat is so laid back as to want to be able to stay on the chair. I know you're nocturnal, but truly, I don't care. 1,000 lines. I won't sleep during lesson time.
Hermione muttered something dark under her breath that even I thought better of writing down, and explained that making her stay up later to write lines wasn't going to help her ability to stay awake during future lessons. Her outburst was ignored. After a while, Mrs. Maggrumph got up and took everyone's papers, before looking through them and sighing repeatedly. Loudly.
You pupils are very thick, she yelled. You're all so untidy and never quick.
Given I had very neat cursive writing and had finished my work within the first minute of a lesson, I considered this unfair. Mrs. Maggrumph looked at Robin's work, holding the paper every which way she could and frowning.
What is this swivel meant to be? You need to do much neater work for me.
I'm sorry, she stuttered. I try to be neat, but I find writing very hard.
Get yourself a better pen. You'll be doing them all again,
sneered Mrs. Maggrumph. It's not really the pen that's the problem, said Robin awkwardly. It's my hands, well, more my brain, really. You see, I have this condition.
Oh, so it's a human thing. Let me make it clear. There's no preferential treatment here. You all learn to do the same. I don't treat by species, only by name.
It's not my species, just me, said Robin. I have problems gripping a pen like everyone else, and knowing where it is on the page when I write, where any object is I'm holding really, but especially when I have to maintain the same sort of pressure equally with a pen. I really struggle with being neat. I tried really hard. If you contact my old school, they'll tell you all about it.
Not my problem,
hissed Mrs. Maggrumph.
That's just an excuse. Now do it better, you stupid goose.
Robin's strong composure, which had been holding out well so far, was fading as she was visibly leaking from her eyes again. It was most disconcerting.
You're just idle and lazy. Either that or you're trying to deliberately drive me crazy.
No, stuttered Robin, please.
No more answering back,
Mrs. M sighed.
On my planet I'll give you a good thwack. Sadly, I can't do that here, but behave yourself from now on. Let me be very clear.
Robin looked down at his shoes uncomfortably. I noticed that they were untied again. So did Lando, who, when the teacher wasn't looking, leant over Robin's desk and wordlessly tied them up for her. Thank you, mouthed Robin. You're welcome, Lando mouthed back. Sorry, mouthed Lando to Robin. Who needs neat handwriting anyway? It's pointless. We're going to be doing all our adult work on computers, all universal. The school bell went and Mrs. Maggrumph announced,
Next we're doing art. We won't get it finished, but let's make a start. Now today it's a model of a space canoe. Everyone get out your scissors and glue. Now do what I do so yours looks just like mine. And do it quickly. No questions. Don't waste my time.
Mrs. Maggrumph demonstrated something she had clearly done hundreds of times in a blur of seconds and then sat down, smugly, as if she was pleased to have beaten a class of 10-year-olds at something. What was that again? Robin asked Lando helplessly, but the Clandusprod shrugged. Like this, I think. His canoe seemed to be backwards and upside down. No, wait, that's wrong. A few minutes on, and Robin's was worse. The end had broken off and rolled under her chair towards me. She had got so much glue on her opposable thumbs that she had got physically stuck to her desk. I thought about handing the clay back to her, but that meant being seen, so I pushed it with my tail as far as I could without moving and tried to forget about it. The class tried to work. I had finished mine, although I found out later that mine was inside out. Bettina had made her model messily in about 5 seconds and was busy adding colourful slogans to the side of it, whilst Hermione had put half of hers together and fallen asleep again, this time in the glue pod. Lando had accidentally sat on his. XXXX had accidentally eaten his. Squash had built his perfectly, then knocked it to the floor in excitement where it had broken in half. Jake had got his glue to his tail and was running round and round his chair squeaking. Elfrida had started off making a really elaborate design and got bored halfway through, and Archibald had created a special remote control model that was already flying around the room at top speed. Only Margalo had made hers perfectly, the way she had been asked to. Poor Robin was in an awful mess. The teacher loomed over her, and she tried not to look up, and Maggrumph gave a mock double take.
Look at this awful mess. You can't follow even simple instructions, you stupid pest. Don't tell me this isn't glue or another thing that you can't do.
Robin looked at the floor. Yes, she said sadly. I'm trying hard. Really I am.
What happened to the end?
Mrs. Maggrumph asked.
It's no good getting help from your friends. You need to do things yourself in my school. If you can, you stupid fool.
I don't know, stammered Robin. It was here a minute ago and then it wasn't.
Do you think sabotage is funny? That this school is made of money?
No, said Robin helplessly. I'm trying my hardest.
Your hardest used to be harder.
Mrs. Maggrumph moved nearer to her.
You might think you could start off as a bright sparkle, but only make you darker. I'll make sure you never graduate. In evolutionary terms, you're still just a stupid egg.
No, this can't be happening to me, not again. I so want to graduate. I would give anything. Robin shrank back in a chair and composed herself as best she could and looked back up at the teacher. It's not a matter of concentration. I have everything right in my brain. It's when it arrives in my fingers it all goes wrong. It's as if they're attached to someone else's body and I'm working them by remote control. I will work hard for you. I want to work hard for you. I like lessons. Mostly. Ask me to write a story or a piece of poetry or read a book to the class or act in a play or even do my times table. I'm great at those. It's these things I can't do. Mrs. Maggrumph stared, her antlers twitching as she double-rhymed every sentence. Always a sign of an impending explosion, I knew.
Now you're making me really pissed. This class would be better if you didn't exist. All your new friends secretly hate you. They're trying their best not to berate you.
Robin looked as if she wished the ground would swallow her up. I felt the life go from her eyes, the way it had from the others before me, the way it had evaporated from mine on the first day. Still the teacher's booming voice was going non-stop. I felt bad for my friend, feeling the end of the canoe under my tail. But I daren't move and give myself away, or I would end up in the path of the explosion too. I shut my eyes and hoped Mrs. Maggrumph would go away, playing soothing Camalosian music in my head to calm my nerves.
What is to do? What good are the rest of those things to you when you're an adult? Not life skills like handwriting and glue. You're just plain stupid through and through. Isn't that right for the rest of you?
The rest of the class froze as Mrs. Maggrumph walked round the desks, the hair at the back of my neck standing up on end with every click-clack of her high heels, while we tried in vain to avoid eye contact.
You,
she bellowed at Elfrida.
Insect, isn't this you the thickest person you've ever met?
Oh, I can think of a few others who are thicker,
said Elfrida, looking round the class at Margalo, a trace of laughter on her lips. Mrs. Maggrumph didn't seem too happy about that, but also said when she was about to be beaten, so she moved on to Lando.
Isn't she old? Clandusprod.
No, stuttered Lando. She's very wonderfully, refreshingly normal and clever. Just clumsy. Or perhaps that's just compared to me. Mrs. Maggrumph shook her head and moved on to Jake.
You, Flowball, isn't she awful? Doesn't she besmirch the name of class 5C? Now come here and tell me.
In a trice, Jake was out of his chair and hiding under his desk. Without reacting, the teacher moved her head round towards him at the same slow, icy speed.
So you agree, and I'll let you go free,
she said, staring at the poor Glabdiharbit level with his eyes. Jake looked from her to Robin and shut his eyes tight, rolling himself up into a ball for good measure. Next, Mrs. Maggrumph did what I had been dreading, moving towards me and pinioning my tail to the desk.
You're an excellent breath, she said. Isn't she the most perfect pest?
I swallowed hard.
Come now, don't be shy.
Mrs. Maggrumph added.
Or would you rather let you break down and cry? It's her or you up to ridicule. We only have tough people in this school.
I shut my eyes too, but that didn't work for me as well, because soon Mrs. Maggrumph had me by the tail and was squeezing tight.
Look, she added, I can see that you're about to be sick, and you've had about enough of it. So just agree that the human is stupid and thick.
Oh no, triple rhyming. This was bad. Very bad. Her whole face filled my eyes, her antlers pressing into my forehead, her faux scent overwhelming my acute nostrils, her voice sending vibrations through my skull with every slow, icy command. Every instinct I possessed told me to get away fast. I eyed making a bolt for the door, but the teacher just shook her head again.
You won't get far, and if you do, it's automatic detention for you,
she said.
But you know what will do the trick. Just tell the human she's fake. Say how she's lower than low, and then I will let you go. She is, isn't she?
Mrs. Maggrumph waved an antler at Robin.
So tell me what you see.
I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Sensing blood, Mrs. Maggrumph moved in for the kill.
It doesn't matter whether it's implied or said. So one last time, just nod your head. Is she not impossibly dense?
To my shame, I felt my head nodding wildly, instinctively, before I could stop it.
Does she possess any shape of sense?
Once again, some phantom had me shaking my head from side to side. Finally, that awful gaze broke with mine, and I began to breathe again. Mrs. Maggrumph turned back to Robin, whose eyes were wide open by now.
You see, it's not just me. Your classmates in this school all take you for a fool. Nobody needs you. Nobody loves you. Everyone here secretly thinks they're above you. You'll all lose 10 house points because of their actions. Humans, of course, lose more by fractions. Except Marlowe, who is not to blame. The rest of you, though, you're all the same. You should all hate her for doing all this to you. And on only her first full day too. You girl have made an awful first impression. I'll stay out of my sight for the rest of the lesson.
So saying, she turned Robin's chair round to face the back of the class, pitching her headlong, her back to the front of the class.
Oh, you get a million lines. I must not waste the teacher's or my own time.
I'll never manage that, gasped Robin, staring at the pile of paper that the teacher piled on her desk.
Earlier you were all ready to write your story, stiffened Maggrumph, but a million lines is less likely to bore me. Original thought is unnecessary and airy-fairy. Repetition is how you learn. In your case, barely.
Rubbish, whispered Lando kindly. My family come from a storytelling clan on Ziggurisbury, and let me tell you, the right story or poem can save the world. I don't remember any Clandusprod gluing or writing by hand or colouring any lines past the age of 5. You won't need what she's selling when you're older.
Numbers are very important too.
Joined in Archless.
Far more so than using archaic squidding or building things with our own digits.
Thank you, sniffed Robin. I'm not stupid, really. There are just certain things I can't do.
Like your story. Now you're boring. This class is really done,
sighed Mrs. Maggrumph, picking up everyone's work and chucking the whole lot in the bin except Margalo's.
Next week we'll start again and make another canoe frame. No house points for anyone today. I'm putting my scoreboard away. The rest of you, less squawking, more working,
said Mrs. Maggrumph. We carried on with the rest of the lesson in silence, Robin clearly still fuming, till the bell finally went for the end of the lesson. Mutiny brewing, we regrouped outside.
Well, I thought that was shocking behaviour,
hissed Margalo as she walked past.
I would leave this school if I were you. Nobody will like you after that.
That was awful, said Robin to herself, still in shock and suffering flashbacks.
Just a bit of banter,
said Margalo.
It's not her fault you're the species in such thick skins.
Marmalade covered with grumps. That wasn't banter. Banter is when you like someone and try not to show them. Like Archulus and Elfrida.
Mrasianart blushed rouge, and the Mekkion turned rusty at this, and both tried to avoid the other's eyes, but neither said anything.
Mrs. Maggrumph clearly hates children in general, and you in particular. That was all-out war,
complained Bettina. What did I do to deserve that onslaught? Asked Robin, still shocked. Hermione sighed.
You're new, and you breathe,
she said.
That's all it takes.
Some adults are a bit like weapons. It doesn't take much to set them off. You never quite feel you're safe in their presence ever again. Even the nice ones are kind of blunt weapons that wear you down slow. You'd love for her to intimidate, I'm afraid.
But why am I such a threat to her? She's the teacher. She's the one with all the power.
She's just putting you in your place,
Offered Bettina.
It's an old Belobrat tactic. Oh well, not much we can do about it. Anyone for foosball?
With that, Bettina and Hermione moved off with the others until only the Clandusprod and I were left. When they were alone, Lando said, "None of what she said was true, Robin. Just so you know, you are needed and loved." "Yeah, right," said the defeated Robin, pulling her head towards the chest and sounding not unlike Hermione. "They thought I was useless at my old school too, so why would it be different here? Now everyone will blame me for costing them house points. Humans are probably last now, and my chance of that trip is gone. Everyone else is too now, probably, all because of me. It was almost as if she wanted us not to go on it. I know I would hate me in your shoes now." "That's not true. Everything's different here. We're different. We're survivors here. Survivors of a bad time who care more about who you are and how big your heart is than what you could do with a pen or a glue stick. And I want to tell Mrs. Anders what she could do with her scissors personally." "I thought Clandusprods were meant to be nice," laughed Robin. "Some people don't deserve nice," sighed Lando, "and that's not a nice thought." Robin looked up. "Thank you for helping," she said. I really needed you today." "Thank you for being helped," said Lando, smiling. "Not many people know how to do it anymore. It's an art form of itself, admitting to needing help." "It's good to have a friend," said Robin. "It's good to have anything anymore. I wish I could be more like you, cheerful and friendly in the face of adversity, helping everyone, instead of feeling as if I want to give up and feeling sorry for myself." Lando hugged the human. "No problem," he said. "I think you're coping really well. It's all in a Clandusprod's work. Welcome to the clan. I'm going to enjoy helping you." "How do you manage that, though?" asked Robin, hesitating as more thoughts occurred to her. "Make friends so easily. Be nice to everyone all the time, even when no one else is. How has being here not affected you or turned you hard or inward or rude like everyone else?" "How do you mean?" asked the Clandusprod. "Well," said Robin, "take our class. I've only been here a day, and I can already see how scared everyone is, even if they don't say it or try to hide it, whether it be loudly or quietly, all except you. I can already feel myself turning into someone else harder and angrier from one tiny lesson. But you're the pinnacle of Clandusprodiness, always picking up anyone who's down, instead of worrying about yourself." Lando thought this over. "I just see troubled people. I want to take those feelings away so they can be themselves again. That's my drive. I'm not fussed about how I feel. I'm not important. You all are." Robin shook her head. "You're the most important one here from what I can see. This class would fall apart without you keeping everyone together. You must know that." Lando shrugged shyly. "Maybe I'd fall apart without someone else to look after." He looked squarely at Robin and narrowed his Clandusprodic eyes. "I'm also intrigued, fascinated by all you creatures, so more complicated than my own. You know, I was second to come here on Orpheus, behind Elfrida, and it was such a horrible experience. Clandusprod should never be alone, and Elfrida wasn't much company, always off on her own, isolated, fiercely independent. Seeing you all arrive, one by one after me, was like a gift. I need outside people. You all fascinate me. All Clandusprods live for their community, because we are such boring individuals. But watching all of you up close, and under such duress, has given me meaning. Something to fight for I never had on my own, and most Clandusprods never get to experience unless they travel. And I'm needed. At last I'm useful. My life has meaning. Worry does funny things to people, you know. I've seen it develop in all of you since you came here. Poor Jake has PTSD and his anxiety is high even for a Glabdiharbit. Archibald has OCD and can't cope without his routines. Elfrida's become more weird and more of a loner. Squash veers between being aggressive and not caring. Poor XXXX has been given all sorts of complexes. I remember when Hermione first came here and she was as quiet as Colin, was a real pussycat, but now she's a lion, roaring at the world. Didn't even have those animals on Earth, by the way. Sorry, I forget. Or Bettina, being all brusque and standoffish and distrustful. Margot's like that too, I think, but it's slightly different for her. She has protection to hide behind, and the rest of you don't. I don't even know where to start with a Camalosian who hasn't said 6 words to me since getting off the shuttle weeks ago. And that leaves you, Robin. Who are you going to turn into? I don't know, gaped Robin. I keep trying so hard to be strong, to become the tougher person I wanted to be, who would never be affected by anything. But everything that keeps happening to me just makes me feel as if I'm weaker than I thought I was. What about you, though? She asked for Clandusprod, wild-eyed. I need to know, so I can survive. What has your special power been? Lando looked so sad as if he was about to cry. I cared more, because everyone else started caring less. Now it hurts so much if something happens to one of you. I can't bear it. Somebody has to turn this darkness into sunshine. I just don't know if my torch is big enough to carry on my own. Robin smiled. I'm sure it is. And even if it isn't, every light is valuable when you can't see where you're going. She stopped in her tracks. Whoa, I think I'm turning into Elfrida. Well, maybe a Mrasianart is who I meant to be, she giggled. Well, don't ever change, Lando. The class would fall apart without you. The problem is, it's falling apart with me, and that makes me sad, Lando sighed. Just then they heard the wail of a Glabdiharbit in trouble. The energetic game of foosball outside was clearly becoming a shade too energetic. Well, laughed Lando, I'd better go and save someone else. I'll keep an eye on you though, Penguin, promise. And I'm here if you need me. Coming? Be right there, said Robin, without really meaning it. Instead, Robin stayed behind in the great hall, lingering, still afraid of the others after her experience in the lesson. Instead, she stood separate to everyone, apart from them and their noise and their energy, as still as could be, while she stared at the tiny patch of sky just visible from where she stood. Suddenly Robin's eyes noticed a small brown furry figure rushing through the hall and into the room. Both of them gaped at each other for a few seconds, then fled. Robin was the first to recover, though. Hi, said Robin, putting her arm out. Jake squeaked and ran to hide away under a table. You're Jake, aren't you? You're the one I haven't had much time to speak to yet. Jake backed away, worried about what she might do with her arm. I'm sorry, the human continued. I didn't mean to scare you. I wanted to make friends. I notice you don't say much in class, or out of class. I don't either, and I was always being told off for it. I just wanted to say, it's rather nice not to be the quietest one here. Some of those other voices are so awfully loud sometimes. Jake stuck his head out from under the table and squeaked, less than alarmed this time.
Beep.
You know, you really do look like a piker.
A what? It's a type of roast bread, isn't it? XXXXX sometimes wears one as an edible hat.
Asked Jake. No, it's a creature on Earth. It's like a big ball of fur with cute ears, just like you. Jake looked up in fright.
Are they scary?
No, said Robin thoughtfully. The opposite, in fact. They're cute,
Oh, good.
said Jake with relief.
I do get scared by things quite easily, even for a Glabdiharbit. Being sent to this school is the scariest thing that ever happened to me. You probably think I'm being stupid, as everyone else does.
Robin dropped under the table, causing me to peer so far round to listen in that all the pencils dropped out of my pocket, and I lost a few precious seconds trying to pick them back up. You know a secret? She was just asking when I picked them up again. I'm scared too.
You are?
Asked Jake. Yes, sighed Robin, especially after that lesson today. You're awfully brave not saying bad things about me, but I wouldn't have blamed you if you had. I'd have done anything to get out of that lesson myself just then. Oh, I told myself I wasn't going to be scared, that the worst thing that could possibly happen to me had already occurred, so nothing would affect me ever again. That I would be strong now. But walking into the school behind Mr. Clandusprod, is it called, when I didn't know anybody, that was the most terrifying thing I ever did. You must have done it too, or you wouldn't be here. That makes you stronger than you realise. And not saying anything just now rather confirms it. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you for not being cruel to me in class. I appreciated it.
It was pretty terrifying, wasn't exciting,
squeaked Jake.
coming to a new place and having to find a lot of new tables I didn't know to hide under to keep me safe.
Me too, though I don't think I could fit under any of these tables. I would if I could. I mean, I'm terrified to stay here. I'm terrified to leave. I'm still very scared I won't ever graduate. I'll get sent home in disgrace. I so badly want to, and prove I'm not as stupid as everyone always thinks I am. The things seem to keep happening to me.
Me too,
said Jake.
I'm terrified they're going to keep me in school forever, so I won't ever get to see the universe.
Robin smiled. I could relate to that one. At my old school, my Earth school, they all called me slow and clumsy and a troublemaker. Well, I might be clumsy, but I can't help it. I'm not really any of those other things. They just stem from me not being able to keep up with everyone around me. I'm a good kid, really, and I'm actually pretty bright. I just can't do the other stuff kids do, that all kids are meant to be able to do, so everyone thinks I'm either thick or willful, and I'm not at all. My biggest worry is that I'll never be able to show everyone what I can do, that I want to, that no one else has ever done before, because I'll be too busy struggling to do the things every other kid younger than me already does so easily. Robin sighed. Graduation seems so far away when everyone is already easily doing the things you dream of doing. My old teachers always said I'd never make it, that I'd be expelled before I got there. But one day...
Peer pressure's scary,
squeaked Jake.
I know just how you feel. There's always some alien who could do something I can't, and somehow we always seem to do it without hiding under the table all the time. I don't understand that concept at all. How can you just live out in the open like that, with no protection? It's all so scary.
If it helps, I was mentally hiding under a sort of metaphorical table when I first came in, said Robin.
You were?
Squeaked Jake. Yes, I was absolutely terrified of meeting so many aliens for the first time yesterday, so I managed to think I was somewhere safe before I walked in. It worked, I think, before I dropped everything and got mad at myself.
You didn't show it,
squeaked Jake. No, Robin smiled. Well, I couldn't keep it up for long, but just for a moment there, I pretended pretty good, didn't I? I almost fooled myself.
And how do you feel now?
asked Jake. Better, said Robin, mostly because of all of you. I'm still scared you'll all find some reason not to like me. I'm scared to find out what you're all really like in case you really are all going to eat me. And I'm as scared as I would be in any strange building away from home for the first time, not knowing what's to come. I'm no longer scared of aliens, or being on another planet, which seemed so terrifying just a few hours ago.
It's scary being the smallest,
said Jake. I hear you, said Robin. It's scary being the second smallest, but I'll help you if you help me. Deal? I hope it will help us both have as quiet a life as we can. Jake squeaked his agreement and stuck out his paws to shake. I really appreciate you having my back in class today, said Robin. I know everyone did, except that antlered one, and Colin, who I thought was about to be sick. And I appreciate help from everyone, but especially from you, because I know how difficult it is to stick up for people and get into trouble when you think like we do. It's much easier for the confident Belobrats and Habridats in class than us. Jake came away from the table slightly and squeaked again.
You're welcome. You are my classmate after all. We are all in this together. Community is strength.
Robin laughed. I've heard about Glabdiharbit communities. They sound amazing. The way you all pull together to help the weakest member. I wish my kind were more like that. Jake's smile squeaked.
We all take it in turns to be weak and strong. Today, Sandy, it was your turn to be singled out and feel weak. Tomorrow it might be mine. It makes sense we should all pull together all the time, so none of us feel too bad. Plus, running away together is better than running away alone. That way, if someone fires at you, they have a moving target to choose from.
Robin thought for a moment. That makes sense, she said. Thank you. She rustled Jake's fur. That's amazing, I said, standing behind him and making him jump, and making Jake run back under the table. Oh, Colin, said Robin, I keep forgetting you're there. You're really quiet. What's amazing? Jake doesn't let anyone touch him normally. He's scared of physical contact, even for a Glabdiharbit. Wait, said Robin, and trying to think back over what she'd read at her old school, called out to Jake, don't you Glabdiharbits have community huddles?
Yes, but only with other Glabdiharbits,
squeaked Jake. Sorry, Jake, Robin said as we walked away. I forgot. I'll make sure I don't make you jump again. A pair of googly eyes peeked out from under the table.
That's all right.
He whispered.
It's all right with you two, though. I'll just run outside for a little while.
So instead Robin turned to me. I would normally have been outside with nearly everyone else at this time, but I was still feeling guilty about what had happened in class, and went up to her, shyly wrapping my tail around her. I nervously looked up at her, expecting her to throw me off, or to see scorn or disdain in her eyes, but not a bit of it. Instead, she smiled. "Sorry," I mouthed. "I didn't mean any of it. She made me say it." "Oh, Colin," Robin said. "No hard feelings about earlier. I know that dreadful monster of a Maggrumph was just trying to sow division between us all and finding someone else to pick on. You couldn't help it. You lasted as long as you could. Even I was about to agree with her by the end there to make her shut up, even though I know it's not true. I am clever, just clumsy, which is not the same thing at all. Is it?" Suddenly, though, her anxiety returned and she looked at me with concern. "It isn't true, is it? You don't think I'm stupid? I don't bring down this school?" Wordlessly, I shook my head and hugged her tight. "I wonder what they're doing back home right now," Robin said. "At my old school, on my old planet, with my old things and people and pets." A tear fell down her cheek, splashing me on my tail. "Home," said Robin to herself, staring up at the ceiling and holding out her hand. Without her seeing, Lander came back into the hall, went to Blotchy and took him off his lead, pushing him forward until he walked over to Robin and put his head on her knee, the other side from me. She cuddled him gratefully and put her arms round his neck. She reached for his collar. "Tell me what's wrong," it said. "Out loud." Robin shrugged. "But one day I'll be out of this place, have a house I can call my own, heck, a planet I could call my own. I don't know what happens to you when you leave this school. I doubt I could ever earn enough to pay the shuttle travel back home again. I'm stuck here." She buried her head in Blotchy's fur. "There isn't even a window," Robin whispered, cuddling the Argybrath. "I can't say goodbye to Earth. I was too sad to look when I was in the shuttle leaving it, but now I want to see it so bad. They're lucky," she added, looking up to the highest part of the wall where Elfrida and Hermione were flying or levitating, away from the ruckus going on underneath them, involving a short-sighted Belobrat, a ball and a Glabdiharbit, who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. "They are very lucky. They get to say goodbye to their planets every night when they look up at the sky. But all the rest of us see is a wall."
"You're not missing much,"
said Elfrida, quietly flying indoors.
"especially tonight. There's only one tiny moon on this planet, and not nearly enough light to see anything. Plus it's foggy tonight too. All I can see are clouds."
"Whoa, there's no privacy in the school at all. You all move so quietly." "Well, at least you get to see something," said Robin quickly, before regretting her rudeness. "Sorry, I mean it would be nice to see something other than that wall. I'm just missing it tonight. The sight of anything except those four walls. I'm going stir-crazy here already, and it's only day 2.
"Some ways it's worse,"
said Elfrida, settling herself on the floor next to us.
"We get to be reminded there's a whole universe out there we can't get to every night. It feels like the rest of you have forgotten what that's like when you're in lockdown. Oh, I know I don't have to look, but I feel the pull of it every night calling me. I have to see it."
Now, we studied a little of Mrasianart and the importance of the night sky to the spiritual philosophy that was so central to their life, and I had long meant to ask Elfrida about it. Robin must have read that too, as she asked more or less the same question I wanted to. "But don't you need to see the sky to keep up your beliefs?" Elfrida froze momentarily, but soldiered on.
"What beliefs?"
she said. "Oh," said Robin, "just something I'd read about Mrasianart. It doesn't matter. It's obviously wrong. Forget about it."
"I don't have any beliefs anymore,"
said Elfrida simply.
"I used to, back when I was on Mars. I thought there was some greater power out there guiding us and nudging us in the right direction. But this force always led us to where we needed to be. And all things happened for a reason. But life worked out for the best. That anything that went wrong was just teaching us a way of making our lives better. Since coming here, though, I've begun to wonder." She trailed off. "What sort of a universe takes away those you love from those so young and sticks you in a tiny room together indefinitely? What sort of universe allows those who have lost so much already to be plucked from everything they knew and sent to consult with strangers? What sort of deity turns the unsuitable into teachers and offers them power over those more suitable and qualified for the job? There is no order below, which means that there is no order above either. I could go on.
She shook her head.
Sorry, this is meant to be your melancholic moment, Robin. You're newest here, after all. It's a bigger shock to you still. You deserve that luxury. I've been here longest and should be over it by now. But I'm still adjusting.
Oh, I don't think this is the sort of melancholy that goes away over time. It's followed me all my life, said Robin, gulping down tears. The worst thing is, that teacher's right. I am useless. I mess everything up. Nobody ever wants to spend time with me.
She wasn't right, you know. You're great.
Elfrida touched her shoulder with her wing, and then Blotchy put his paws between their knees, and they hugged so hard that, caught in the middle, I thought I might get suffocated. Lando leaned over and joined in, making me feel even more squashed. I can't take your pain away, Robin, said Lando. None of us can, but at least we can share it with you, diluted just a little, until it's livable. Thank you, said Robin. You're sweet. Were you three of the fellow sensitive souls in the class, or three of the four anyway, now the Glabdiharbit is outside again? What about the other half of the class? Do they all think I'm stupid? That I shouldn't be here? That you all hate me for letting you down? Lando grinned. Here's your answer, he said, arriving in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1...
Penguin!
barked Bettina, slamming the door.
Where were you? I wanted you on my team. Jake won't play properly.
The foosball rolled into the room behind her, Jake clinging hopelessly to it as the ball went over and over and smashed into Squash, who sat down with a bump. Robin pulled herself away from the group hug, reluctantly. But I'll only mess it up. I always mess things up.
Who cares?
Said Bettina.
Games are meant to be messed up. That's half the fun. We all think that.
Actually,
said Archulus, zooming in on his robotic stabilisers.
I find a great comfort and security in following arbitrary rules and regulations. They enable me to enjoy myself within my comfort zone. Ooh.
Elfrida was standing on his robotic foot.
Oh,
He corrected himself. Yes.
right. Who cares? It's all about having
He reached for a word as if not understanding it.
fun.
The more of us that play, the better.
Squeaked Jake, still rolling around the room.
I don't have to spend as much time in goal.
Thick means good to a Doosbury Giant.
Said XXXXX.
All the best spreads on toast and layers in sandwiches are thick.
You're right, for a penguin.
Said Hermione, leaning up against the door frame.
Why wouldn't we want you there?
Oh, said Robin, I just thought, you know, what was said in class today.
What that monster says in class stays in class.
Said Bettina with a shudder.
I can't believe she did that to you, Penguin, on your first day. I'm sorry we couldn't stop her.
Oh, it's not the first time, muttered Robin darkly. I just hoped it would be different here, you know. New world, new situation, new school, new friends, new teacher. But it turns out I'm stuck with the same old me. She pulled a face I recognised from the last time she began to leak at the eyes, but Lando stepped in before she could. We have a saying on Ziggurat 3 that whatever darkness you experienced with you in your home cave stays with you for life, no matter what cave you move into, or how much light you walk out into. The trick is to live with what you've become and make the most of it by shining through it, rather than living your life in silhouette and growing mad trying to change who you are. And what we see in you is pretty good, Robin.
Yeah,
Said Bettina, slapping her on the back. What does old Mrs. Antlers know about anything? She thinks she's so brilliant, but look at what she achieved with her life. She became a nothing teacher in a backward school and a sprod-forsaken rock floating in space. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm aiming for bigger than that. The only question is, what do I do first? Become a great intergalactic president, or a famous athlete, or even an explorer?
What are those legs?
Asked Hermione, walking past, and soon found Bettina flinging herself on a pallet with peals of laughter, so infectious even Robin had to join in, while Lando stood over them and tutted. Why can't we get along, he said. We do the best to divide us, those adults, but we need to pull together, to stay strong, to build each other up.
On those legs? Some of us don't need building up.
Said Hermione again, to more laughter, as Lando pounced on her.
Okay, I'm sorry. I take it back.
Cross your tail and hope to wail, said Lando, laughing.
Cross my feathers, we're in this together.
Said Hermione.
This is us getting on. There's a difference between banter from those who care for each other and what goes on in lessons, you know.
She looked over at Robin.
We do whatever we have to do in there to survive. It's what we say out here that counts.
She looked over at the Glabdiharbit.
I thought we were brave today, though, Jake.
Yes, said
Bettina.
I was close to breaking myself, but none of us did. Well, only Colin.
I felt ashamed. Leave him be, said Robin protectively. He held out for as long as he could. Suddenly I began to understand why humans leap from their eyes, because I very nearly did it myself.
All right,
Right, said Bettina.
enough moping. We get precious little enough free time. We're not going to waste it. So what do we do? Already ahead of you,
Called XXXXX from the kitchen,
Oh, the Doosbury Giant is making sandwiches. Let's watch some television.
said Hermione. I don't have the time to watch television, I said sadly. Not with all these lines to do. I don't want to get into any more trouble with Mrs. Maggrumph. Well, I bet she won't notice if I do them or not, the rotten old moosehead. Bettina laughed.
Oh, one or other of us are always getting lines. We have a solution all of our own, though.
She turned to me and smiled.
Oh, Colin, 1,000,000 lines, was it? That shouldn't take you long, should it? A couple of minutes?
Eager to help, and still feeling guilty about earlier, I smiled and took out my 72nd best pen. I wasn't going to waste my favourites on something so trivial. Using both my hands, one foot, and the tail, I started writing, keeping a full foot back for writing down this manuscript at the same time. Wow, said Robin, impressed. A multidextrous Camalosian. That's quite a technique.
You wait, said
Bettina.
He'll be done before you or I got the pen cap off.
Doesn't Mrs. Maggrumph ever get suspicious as everyone's handwriting looks the same? Asked Robin. Hermione laughed.
She doesn't care, as long as we make out we had a miserable time writing them, so I'm really disgusted tomorrow. My next, please, Colin. You're a star.
However, just as Robin was beginning to relax, a pair of Clandusprodic legs walked over to her and asked, "Can I have a word? In my office?" Without warning, a door opened at the side of a wall I had only seen once before, during my interview when I first arrived. Curious, Robin stuck her head out and saw that they belonged to Mr. Clandusprod and, wordlessly, decided she'd better follow him. Intrigued and leaving the lines half finished, I followed Robin as closely as I dared. I skulked outside the door, worrying about my new friend. "Hello," said Robin. "You wanted to see me?" "Yes," said Mr. C. "Sit down. Don't worry, you're not in trouble or anything." "Oh, good," said Robin. Whoops. Robin tripped on a shoelace that had come undone without her noticing, pitching her forward and causing her to grab at the nearest object, which happened to be Mr. C's desk. His coffee cup and all his papers uprooted themselves and landed on top of the back of Robin's head as she found herself nose first on the floor. Without either of them seeing, I picked up one of the bits of paper and glanced at it. Interrogate human about her condition, then in a few days' time, test for signs of improvement after Sadly, the page was ripped right there, so I didn't get to see the rest of the word. Doosbury, dodo, donkey, dog, dodecahedron, dosage, doll, dough. "So," said Mr. C without skipping a beat, "according to your notes from your old school, you have a physical medical condition that makes you clumsy. Is that true?" Robin murmured from the floor. "This dyspraxia of yours," said Mr. C. "Is it common on Earth? It's nowhere else, right? Because I would have heard of it." "No, and yes," said Robin, shifting uncomfortably in her seat, both because she dreaded questioning and was also suddenly made aware of her condition that made her and everything around her feel unstable. Hardly anyone has heard of it back home, and fewer understand it. But yes, every planet has some sufferers, I think. I remember trying out an intergalactic support meeting once. There was definitely a group of Doosbury Giants falling over. Some Belobrats kept knocking their heads together by accident too. I saw a Maggrumph who kept getting her antlers twisted when she walked. Oh, and some Glabdiharbits got stuck rolling themselves up into a ball. And there was a Mekkion who kept falling over his own wheels. Relieved at being listened to at last, Robin talked really fast, was soon giving a long and impressively, for a human, detailed description of how the neural pathways in her brain made understanding where her body was a lottery, and how it affected most things in her day-to-day life, which even I couldn't keep up with. Finally, I managed to keep up just as she finished. "So you see, sir, I really don't mean to be clumsy, or to be bad at handwriting and cutting out and fine crafts and stuff. It's just the way my brain is built. I don't know where my body is in relation to objects, so I have to guess at where my pen is, or where my body is when I'm walking. They always used to tell me to concentrate harder at my old school, but that doesn't seem to help, and often makes it worse. I genuinely don't know where my body is half the time. It's kind of spacey. Every time I walk it's like space travel. Only on land, she joked. Maybe I would be better in space. There are less things to bump into after all, and less gravity. Sometimes even walk into walls without meaning to, because my body isn't where I think it's supposed to be.
Any known cure?
Asked the teacher. Robin shook her head. I don't know. Maybe out there somewhere. But there aren't enough of us in the universe to really invest in yet. My mum used to say it was the 2370s already. Someone really ought to do something. She trailed off sadly, clearly thinking of her family. Clandusprod's face fell.
So there wouldn't be many people to buy a cure?
I don't know if there could be a cure really, said Robin. Not without brain surgery, and technology even the Mekkions don't possess yet. Sorry. My old school gave me some physical exercises to do once, as being active was supposed to help my coordination. I'm pretty sure it didn't, though. I just ended up with more bruises trying them out and falling over.
What if I was to tell you I could find you a cure? Said Mr. C. Would you take it?
Robin shrugged. Maybe, if I knew exactly what it was and researched it thoroughly first. To be honest, though, if there was something that really worked, I would have heard of it. The word of mouth spread amongst sufferers would be huge. There are a lot of quack doctors trying to sell stuff out there. Mr. Clandusprod looked angry.
Are you sure you even have it?
He mocked. Robin pointed at the mess that was still on his floor, embarrassed. Mr. Clandusprod made some mark on some paper I couldn't see, despite peering in through the doorway a really long way.
Ever take any medication?
I'm not sure that would do much good, sir, gulped Robin. I mean, if the brain synapses aren't sparking in the right places, it's not like they can get inside your brain and rewire it. I don't think even the Mekkions can do that. I just have to learn to cope with it, I guess. But it does give my clant mates an unfair advantage. They used to think I was thick back at my old school, but I'm really not. I was the brightest in some subjects, so of course in the other subjects they just accused me of not trying hard enough.
Ever try any supplements?
Asked Mr. C, stroking his spotted chin.
There's some good stuff I'm sure would help you.
It's called red wit. No, sir, I don't think that would help. Most definitely not. No way at all, said Robin as quickly as she could.
Said Mr. C, looking oddly cross once more. That's a pity. A real pity. A huge pity. Interesting. All right, Robin, that's all. It's important we find out about your educational needs while you're here. You may run along and play now.
Thank you, sir, said Robin, and I'm sorry about your desk.
Oh, laughed Mr. C, violently switching back to his old friendly self. No matter, I could always get Archie just to tidy it for me in seconds.
I pulled my head back from the door just in time for Robin to walk through it. Everything all right? I asked her with my eyes. Luckily, Robin understood. Yes, Colin, thanks, said Robin, before her head went back towards the door and thought. At least I think it is. There was something odd about that conversation I just had, though. I'm not sure I do trust that Clandusprod. He's outwardly nicer than the Maggrumph, but just as shifty. Shaking her head as if to banish the thought from her head, she turned to me. Where is everyone? They were busy clambering all over the beds, tables, chairs and things. That looks fun, said Robin. What are you playing?
It's a game called Don't Step on the Lava,
said Elfrida.
Colin came up with it. You have to treat the floor as if it's red hot and not step on it or you're out of the game.
If you touch the floor, you have to mind dying a horrible death.
Laughed Bettina, throwing herself from the wall bars onto the floor and expiring with great theatricality.
This is a bit of a cheat, really, said Lando, seeing as Archibald uses his robotic limbs, and Elfrida and Hermione can fly. But there you are.
Oh, I know that game, said Robin, climbing onto a nearby table. We used to play something similar at home.
Wait, you play games on Earth, Penguin?
Asked Bettina.
I thought humans were all stuck up.
No, said Robin. I used to come up with all sorts of complicated games with elaborate rules, only I never usually had anyone to play with me.
Very good,
nodded Archibald.
The more elaborate the game, the better the preparation for an adulthood based on increasingly inflexible and confusing signposts.
Exactly, said Robin. Plus it was fun. You'll have lava on your homeworld too, I wrote, and threw my message down to Robin, accidentally hitting her on the back of the head. Ouch. Oh yes, said Robin, uncrinkling the note and reading it. I've read that our two worlds are the youngest in the universe, Colin. They're still settling.
A bit like the species on them.
roared Hermione, fluttering somewhere near the light.
Ow,
She said,
too hot.
and fell to the floor.
Ah, you lost.
Scoffed Bettina, as Hermione rolled around miming that she was melting, before laughing so hard that she too fell and did the same.
Oh well, free to go, plus a newcomer. The lava also created an earthquake.
Bettina shook the wall bars so hard that Archduchess Robin and I shot off onto the floor and disappeared into a sea of imaginary lava. Elfrida wins. Again, said Lando. We'll say that Robin didn't really get started.
Very magnanimous of you.
You said Elfrida,
So,
said Archduchess eagerly. The game at an end.
what do you do for fun on Earth? I'm always curious to pick up new ideas from other planets. It's our spare time period now.
Said Archduchess.
Each day is the turn of someone different to choose what we do. I have to complete my rota.
Wait, said Robin. You mean you even wrote her our spare time? I thought we were meant to just be children and be disorganised. Archduchess pulled a face.
Not unproductive. Fact, living by rules and regulations is good for us.
Good for you, maybe, robot brains.
Muttered Hermione, slumped in her armchair.
Now get out of the way. I'm trying to watch television.
That's not productive.
Said Archduchess.
Besides, you had your choice of activities last week. Robin is several days behind, so it's her turn. Besides, the sooner I can list the hobbies along with the rest of you, the sooner I can get going when it's my turn tomorrow. I'll show you all how to make a rota.
Hermione groaned.
Please, not again. You showed me how to make a rota at least a quadrillion times, and I'm still not doing it. Just say you want to watch television with me, Penguin. That will take the lead out of his graphite stick.
What's the television like on Orpheus? Asked Robin. Archduchess's face dropped. Being a Mekkion, he got another out of the bag he carried and rebolted it.
Seriously? You'd rather watch that thing than rank all the planets by number of asteroids with me, or play foosball with Bettina, or build a pillar fort with Jake, or write with Colin, or play board games with Lando, or debate philosophy with Elfrida, or dangle yo-yos from your antlers with Margalo, or eat with XXXXX?
They all sound fun too, said Robin, but I can always change my mind other weeks. For now I just want to sit here and not have to think about the afternoon lessons for a bit.
You will chew your brain.
Warned Archduchess. After the last lesson, I'm not sure that will make a lot of difference, said Robin. Hermione laughed.
Good for you, Penguin.
Win, she said, as Archduchess wheeled himself away.
Oh, and television here is weird. The only reason I watch it is to take a nap, really. If I say what I really want to do is sleep, well, I've missed the mechanical there on my back. Even more about my productivity levels, said Hermione. Really, it's weirder than the school. Truly mind-bogglingly weird,
said Hermione.
We only have one channel, and it's an international one paid for out of the International Peace Organisation budget, on the condition that it demonstrates as much cooperation between the planets as possible. They get masses of funding from the International Peace Organisation on Decreeta, but it still looks made on the cheap to me. Most presenters only end up here when we've done something really naughty on the hand tied and can't get any other work. It's one of Intergalactic President Jay's ideas, but between you and me, I think someone got paid a lot of money to do this on the cheap. Blackmail, I suspect. I really don't trust the shady international government we have now. The problem is, though, while I can see the need for planets to work together politically and socially, trying to cram them together culturally doesn't always work, so barely anyone watches it, except me. I mostly sleep through it.
Oh, said Robin. In what way? Having different cultures together sounds good to me.
I'll show you. There should be a news programme just starting now,
said Hermione, snuggling into her armchair and quickly nodding off. The TV was still at its side from where it had fallen after the rumble earlier. Hermione hadn't bothered to turn it round, so Robin simply lay upside down in a chair, with her feet in the air to watch it.
Welcome to BC News on Orpheus, the information channel that's always just a little bit behind the times. But who cares, right? Nobody's watching anyway,
said the Belobrat presenter, smartly dressed and wearing 3 ties.
I'm Bob, and despite being in this dump, I'm still the best damn news host you've ever seen in your lives. Anything you may have read about me and that bribe I took last year when I was working for the BCBC are just unsubstantiated rumours. That court case was a sham. So was the appeal. So was the other appeal. So were the other 7 appeals. Anyway, prepare to be amazed as we look behind the news headlines to bring you the, smaller print. It's just in, I'm gorgeous. So why have I been passed over for an award yet again? Are those tales of me being bribed to put your stories on the air for quick cash? Untrue. More of those stories later. For now, though, let me cut to my co-host Loretta for her update of the most important thing happening around the world.
Hello, dears, said his co-host. Loretta Clandusprod of the new clan BC here, and you join me at an exciting time. I've been knitting. Yes, that's right, knitting, because our store of algebra full of vigorous free is now back up to full capacity after a most worrying period when stocks fell below 99%. You could probably hear the algebras bleating behind me as I talk to you. Oh yes, look at those cute little faces. Let's see what this one has to say to the camera. Yes, that's right, Bob. You saw it here first, viewers. Anyway, Bob, feel free to come back to me later when I'll be wearing a sweater with your face on it.
Breaking news there,
sighed Bob with his main head, while a second rolled its eyes and a third banged its head against the desk, and lights randomly went out in the studio.
Cut to another segment, quick. Oh wait, news just in. Our intergalactic affairs correspondent has found a way to a rapidly deteriorating situation on Earth. Justin, please tell us what you can see.
Robin sat up at this. Squeaked the high-pitched voice of a Glabdiharbit.
Is that because where you are is surrounded by gunfire, smoke and casualties?
No, Bob. It's because I'm hiding under my hotel bed with my eyes tight shut.
What did you see to make you so scared?
Asked Bob, all three heads leaning in for more.
I was outside today as part of my assignment as Earth correspondent, and it all kicked off, Bob. There was a dog running around the park a little too loudly, and he got off his lead, Bob. He actually got off his lead, and he barked at me.
Justin sobbed. Robin sat back in a chair.
What kind of mad planet is this? If it's all right with you, Bob, I'm going to hide under my bed until you send someone to help secure my safe release from this cesspit of criminal activity. Just glad to have it. BC News. I'll be back to you.
The look of disdain passed across all three of Bob's faces.
Gripping stuff there from Earth.
His slow hand clapped, with three hands.
Other news just in. The latest meeting of the Cop-Out 26 is taking place on Decreeta, involving environment ministers from all over the universe, at the same time as the Intergalactic Olympics, which isn't an excuse for all sort of paid jollies for the politicians. Goodness me, no. Honestly, I don't know why they don't just ask Belobrat. We could sort out the world's problems just like that. And now the weather.
Oh, said Hermione.
That's good news. It shouldn't be in a news broadcast. Every art of every species is obsessed with the weather, but I don't know any children who have the slightest interest in it. You want to know whether it's raining? Stick your head outside your window and see if your feathers get wet. That's what I say.
Salutations, said a bespectacled Camalosian weather girl named Claudine. I ascertain that on this particular solar orbit around Orpheus, solar activity is combined with mild precipitation, and coming up from the northern hemispheres of the globe, and conjugate an unstable collection of environmental air pressures that continue to cascade through the heavens for the remainder of the current solar orbit, leading to a nexus point of precipitation somewhere over the western end of the hemisphere. Bob blinked.
You mean it's sunny with intermittent showers? Again?
Affirmative, nodded Claudine. Light rain and sun. Bob groaned.
Thank you for that concise, accessible report there, Claudine. Now back to our current affairs section with Miranda.
Said the floating Mrasianart as she levitated to the top of the screen.
Greetings, brethren viewers.
Please tell us something exciting about current affairs.
Bob almost pleaded with her.
Anything exciting. Anything at all.
Define exciting,
said Miranda.
For to the beholder, even the most mundane task can be considered exciting.
Well,
said Bob,
something that would be of particular interest to our viewers.
Define viewer,
said Miranda.
For aren't we all really viewers of our own destinies when it comes down to it?
Something current affairsy, please,
begged Bob.
Define this current affairs,
said Miranda.
There isn't everything really current in a universe that ebbs and flows and repeats itself in cycles.
The camera cut back to a stone-faced Bob again, who now had two heads bagging themselves on the desk.
Yeah, cut to Deuceus for some cookery tips.
His third head continued in a faltering voice.
Hello, food fans,
said a Doosbury Giant, who could only be seen from the knees down.
My name is Omelix. I'm an eggs. Get it? Ah ha ha! Here are some cooking tips. Please send me a cake. A big one. Maybe one with chocolate frosted icing, or perhaps one of those nice Victoria sponges they have on Earth, or perhaps one with quadrillions and thousands sprinkled on the top. It really doesn't matter, just as long as it's big and it's scrumptious and it's yummy. And did I mention bacon? Oh, you say you want me to give you tips? Wait, what? That wasn't what my contract said, was it?
Bob was openly sobbing by now.
Sports,
He said and pointed to the camera.
hello.
Said the figure that was clearly a Habridat.
I'm on the edge of my seat here, watching the intergalactic Olympic athletes walk into the Decreeta Olympic Village ready for next week's big event. I can barely contain my enthusiasm. Wait,
Said Bettina, who had just finished unravelling Jake from the foosball she was carrying.
did they say we were meeting up on Decreeta next week? Turn that up, Hermione.
Habridat acquiesced just in time to hear the Habridat commentator get nudged awake and continue with her patter.
Yes, you're right, viewers. For the first time in intergalactic history, we're going to see which species really is the strongest, smartest, tallest, fastest, gutsiest, sleepiest competitors out there. You haven't heard about the Olympics before? Oh, I haven't. It's an Earth event. We must competition in a number of carefully selected sports. Oh, now given international appeal, all 11 species are sending their best athletes to take part in the specially constructed neutral arenas here at Decreeta. Starting today. Yes!
Shouted Bettina, throwing all 6 arms up in the air.
Result!
What is?
Asked Elfrida, flying down to see what the commotion was all about, while the others slowly drifted in.
Don't you see what an opportunity this is?
Asked Bettina, stamping her foot for emphasis. We all looked at her blankly.
A dozen doddery Doosburys. Were none of you paying attention? The Olympics are happening on Decreeta. And where is the school trip taking place on Saturday? Decreeta. We could sneak off, meet some of the stars in our trading cards, maybe get some of them to sign them and see them sports up close. If that isn't better than going around some mouldy old museum celebrating ancient history from before our parents were born, I don't know what is. That's all ancient history.
Some of the exhibits are only a decade old.
Said Archelaus.
That's hardly ancient history. Fact.
Blistering Belobrat barnacles. I'm 10 and I can only remember half of that time. Everything to me is ancient history.
Said Bettina.
That's erroneous thinking anyway.
Said Archelaus, scratching his head with his digital digits.
The only one of us with any house points is Margaret, and she's not going to help us. Simple fact.
Then we're just going to have to make sure we win another way.
Bettina mused.
Archelaus, Hermione, with me. You too, Robin.
But Robin was too busy staring at the television unnoticed. Turn that up, please, she said to Hermione, who did so in her sleep.
It's just an advertisement,
Said Bettina, peering.
not one of the good ones either. If you can't eat it or play with it, they shouldn't advertise it when children might be watching.
Shush, said Robin, agitated. Redweed, the new product from a company existing endlessly, the makers of such life-changing products as brown sludge and black mould. It is a special pyramid scheme product, specially made in our pyramid chimneys and our pyramid planet. It can cure everything from Habridat feather rot to Belobrat head unsynchronization, to Camalosian paw cramp, to Glabdiharbit anxiety, to Agrosian spear elbow, to Doosbury food allergies, as well as a whole range of other chronic mental and physical illnesses you didn't even know you had. Already a hit on Earth, and currently being trialled for side effects on all 11 intelligent species, plus algebraphs. Pre-order your crateful now and be the first in your sector of the universe to get this local product. And what's even better than being a customer? Being your own boss. Sell Redweed on to other customers and make your fortune. Miss Belobrat now owns a Bentley. There was a shot of the announcer driving off, looking rich. I managed to take note of the small print that flashed up on screen for only a brief millisecond. No money-back guarantees. 2% of 19 people from one species in first test study agreed, which is statistically impossible, but we don't care because nobody has the time to read the small print. Second trial for non-humans currently underway in a secret location may cause side effects including burning, belching, sneezing, ruby-coloured rashes, and sudden death. Investment in Redweed can go down as well as up. Giving up your job to become a full-time seller could result in bankruptcy. This might not affect your statutory rights, but will make you look like a big wally.
So what?
Asked Bettina.
That thing's just an advert. A localised advert at that. You can tell by the Orpheus logo on the top of the screen.
The Redweed is what killed my parents, said Robin, unable to take her eyes off the screen. Or at least they were never the same after taking it. Everyone told me not to worry, but I suspected the worst. And then it came true. Lando reached out and gave a human a hug. Where did they even get it from? Asked Lando. I don't know fully, said Robin. It just appeared one day when they said they'd heard about a wonderful new invention and saw a conference taking place about it near to where they worked. They were given a lot of free samples, and then after that they were paid a lot of money to test it. No questions asked. There was no label on the bottle. My family didn't know how much to take. So they took a lot. It all happened so suddenly. They tried to get me to take it, but I wouldn't without researching it.
Logical,
Nodded Archelaus. I almost wish I hadn't, concluded Robin. I wish I'd gone with them. It was awful. I knew what was going to happen.
Why didn't you say anything?
Asked Elfrida. Robin shrugged. Who listens to a 10-year-old?
Ain't that the truth?
Murmured Hermione in her sleep. Look, said Lando. I was bound to be checked. They couldn't just sell anything.
not if they didn't claim to have medical backing and just applied it instead.
Interrupted Archelaus.
Snake oil, I think they called it back in the day.
Said Jake, running for his pillow fort. Those poor people, said Lando. Maybe they don't even know they're being tested on. Robin looked sick. Please turn it off, Hermione, she said quietly. Maybe television wasn't such a good idea after all.
Anyway,
Said Bettina, getting impatient.
Olympics, fun, happy times. Our trading cards come to life. We're going to win that stupid competition somehow and all go on a trip. We just need a plan. Where do they keep those team points?
Mr. Clandusprod especially makes notes on a slip of paper. Seems logical there is a jar back there where they are kept.
Said Archelaus.
Great.
Said Bettina.
Where will that be kept?
Logically, in the staff room.
Said Archelaus.
And how to get to the staff room when they always lock the door?
Said Bettina.
Logically, there must be another route.
Said Archelaus.
A ventilation shaft or something.
This one, do you mean?
Said Elfrida, levitating nearing the ceiling.
We were talking about it earlier.
Gotcha.
Said Bettina, looking smug. Elfrida leaned in conspiratorially again.
I can fly up to it, and Hermione probably could too.
Oh, said Robin, this is exciting.
No,
Said Jake at the exact same time.
this is terrifying. I have to see where it leads.
Says Elfrida.
I bet it leads to some sort of office, though. Maybe you can find your way back here and unlock the door from the outside.
Maybe, said Robin sceptically. Won't it be dark, though? At this, Jake ran under his bed. Archelaus's head torch is attached, so I can't take that without taking his head off.
Oh,
Said Bettina.
Archelaus will fix something up, won't you, Archie? He's good at things like that.
Using only the contents of this room.
Mekkion mused.
Our few meagre possessions and no outside source of power except one tiny window of solar power. A 10-minute problem, I reckon.
In 9 minutes and 57 seconds, he was standing in front of us with a most odd-looking gadget, made up of a box that used to hold my pencils, leftover food, taken from a disgruntled XXXX who tried to argue that no food was really left over if it had been earmarked for future eating, no matter how old, Blotch's spare bowl, trading cards for insulation, some strange bleeping motor Archelaus took out the back of his left robotic arm, and the best Mrasianart glue Elfrida had been borrowing from lessons for her own creative projects. Archelaus waved his one remaining robotic arm in triumph.
It works.
He said before cranking his other arm to make the box sputter out a light bright enough to see with, but not so bright it would get anyone's attention. It shouldn't. Perfect, said Robin. Who gets to go look at it? I don't think climbing's my strong point, though, sadly, given how much trouble I seem to have on the floor. That's a shame, said Lando, retying Robin's shoelaces for her. But we understand. Elfrida thought for a moment.
We could carry you, perhaps. Hermione and me.
No fear.
Laughed for Habridat.
You're small, Penguin, but not that small. I'm not breaking my beak for some fairy story of yours, Elfrida. Go on, Penguins.
Said Bettina, walking into the room while two of the heads concentrated on plaiting the hair of the third.
We've been dying to know what's been going on up there. Lando and I could lift you up and get you started. Maybe XXXX too, if he could put his snacks down for long enough to help. It's just one night. Please.
Robin looked up to the shaft and, unsteady on her feet, fell over.
I'm not sure Robin is the right person to send up.
Mused Bettina.
We don't want detention for accidentally killing our classmate after all.
Really, it ought to be Colin or Jake as the smallest, said Lando. But one of them is scared of heights, and the other is scared of, well, everything. And would Robin even fit? Lando looked my classmate up and down, concerned.
Well, one of you has to go. Let's see,
Said Bettina, counting with her head, staring at each of us in turn.
Eeny, meeny, miny, moe, catch 'em a grumph by their toe. If they squeal, go ho, ho, ho. Which of you do I get to throw? O-U-T spells out.
It landed on Jake, who squeaked very loudly and ran away between me and Robin.
Wait, I did that wrong.
Said Bettina.
O-U-T spells. No, wait, I started on the wrong person again. She gulped. Not that I'm trying to fix anything.
Allow me, I wrote, making sure that a pointed stare wouldn't land on yours truly. O-U-T-R-A-G-E-O-U-S spells outrageous. It landed on Jake again, who squeaked even louder.
Give it here.
Said Archelaus.
Outerplanetarbittingbehicle spells.
All right already, said Robin. It will be lunchtime before this is decided. I'll go. Just would someone else come with me so that I know where I'm meant to be going?
Good for you, Penguin.
Nodded Bettina.
What were you worried about being useless for? Looks like you're just the species we need.
Robin smiled, briefly, before looking up at the shaft and gulping. What do we do when we get there?
There must be some sort of office and a way of looking things up.
Said Elfrida.
Basically, tell us what you can see out the other side and how far you can get and report back. Me and Archie will try and think of a way around the rest.
When do we try it?
Tonight,
Said Bettina.
if something odd really is going on here, then we need to find out what it is, and fast.
You will be careful, won't you? That was Lando. Of course, said Robin. Not like we could possibly get into any more trouble.
It's a bit of a tight fit, though.
Elfrida mused.
I don't think even my generous body could get through there.
It's not too small for a Glabdiharbit, though.
Said Bettina, at which Jake rolled into a ball and hid.
Or a Camalosian.
She continued, at which point I shrank back into the shadows too. Or human, Bettina continued. Robin was just about to nod when the bell rang for second period.
Oh,
Said Bettina.
I guess we'll have to come back to that later.
Robin looked anxious. What happens now? Elfrida breathed deeply.
If you're unsafe, little human, it is best that you don't know, for it will only break your heart.
In walked Mrs. Maggrumph, in a ball gown and still wearing the same clickety-clack high heels and lipstick.
Before we start,
She said,
have you been watching the TV? Normally a waste of time, I hope you'll agree. It's really not very clever. The only thing worth watching for is the weather. But while I'm here, did you see anything you'd like to buy? Without fully knowing the reason why? And the urges, the products new. Anything, I don't know, new or coloured? Or red? Or blue?
We looked at her blankly, confused. We hadn't really been watching the television all that properly after all, especially the adverts, which everyone knew were the boring bit between programmes. She muttered to herself, making notes.
Up to the drawing board, I said those advertisers were purely frauds. What we need is more personal touch. And also something that doesn't cost too much.
She grinned wickedly while we looked at each other in confusion before going back into pure classroom mode.
Now, seeing as you're so obsessed with sports,
Said Mrs. Maggrumph.
I arrange for you to change into shorts. And until the bell goes and you're free, you are all doing PE. No exceptions. I need enough of a frosty reception.
She harumphed as she handed out uniforms, and we all groaned. These are all several sizes too small for me, complained Lando, before hearing Robin complain. Mine are several sizes too big. A pair of them swapping.
I see no purpose in changing out of my normal clothes.
Compared Archelaus.
Mekkions do not sweat, and if anyone else does have a special spray that clears it, then I would gladly share.
It's all part of the ritual humiliation that comes with your education.
Cackled Mrs. Maggrumph.
Oh, Margaret's been excused. Their things are all wet through.
Of course they are.
Said Hermione darkly as she stayed at the back and tried to nap.
Wet with her tears, poor dear.
But there's clearly precipitation outside.
Complained Elfrida.
Can't we come back and do it at a better time? Or not at all?
We'll rain again.
Smiled Mrs. Maggrumph.
Besides, I'll be indoors keeping the scores. It doesn't bother me what's in the sky, for I should be cosy and dry.
Why do it at all?
Said Elfrida.
We could all be cosy and dry.
What do you mean, why, straw fry? Because it's in the syllabus. I'll stop making such a fuss. I'm doing it because I say so, bro.
But why?
Said Elfrida.
Why do you say so? I mean, give us good enough reasons and we might do something. Until then, it seems like a waste of energy.
Because I'm in control.
Smiled Mrs. Grumpus.
I own you all, body and soul. An extra lap for you for trying my patience.
At no flying, you've already got too many ideas above your station.
I don't know if I can.
squeaked Jake.
Go outside, I mean. I'm agoraphobic after what happened yesterday at the food school. Agrosian.
Squash.
Let me bash him. Mark my territory. Dash.
Squeaked Jake.
Agoraphobic. I don't like being outside. Whenever I'm somewhere without a roof, it feels like the sky is about to fall on my head. Sometimes when Glabdiharbit it does, you know. I never went outside then either.
You went outside all right yesterday.
Pointed out Bettina.
You're precious scarier than the outside.
Squeaked Jake.
Wait there.
Said Archelaus, and he rushed off to tinker in his box of electronics.
Can I borrow a cushion, XXXX?
He called to the Doosbury Giant, who at the mention of PE had gone back to the food replicator machine for extra calories.
Sure.
He replied, perhaps mishearing.
I ate enough for breakfast.
Archelaus frowned as if about to reply, but shook his head and went back to fixing up his strange contraption. After a while he floated over to Jake's table and took a few splinters off here and there, before floating back again and adding them to his new gadget. When it was finished, he ran over to Jake and stuck the strange thing on the top of his bicycle helmet.
There.
Mekkion grinned.
You now have a part of your table that you can carry about with you wherever you go, cushioned by a cushion. See how you get on with that.
Jake was thrilled. He poked his head outside, then his feet, then his tail, then the rest of his body. The full long was skipping and dancing outside.
Oh, thank you, Archelaus. That feels much safer. Now I can go out anywhere and do anything. I'm free.
He yelled ecstatically as he hopped on his bicycle, only for Mrs. Maggrumph to call everyone back inside.
I'm doing it.
Squeaked Jake as he raced around lapping the field and just avoiding Squash, who was now sitting in a bush of ruly-coloured flowers and swearing.
A question. What sport is going to suit all of us? There are very different abilities and skill sets, though.
Asked Archelaus.
Orpheus to do the same thing would be illogical.
You will all be split into teams.
Said Mrs. Maggrumph.
To start, the human is up the road, the Glabdiharbit is on the beam. The rest of you are running round the green. That's obscene, you
Yelled Bettina as Jake squeaked and ran off to hide in a shed.
know.
Said Mrs. Maggrumph.
I don't care how you do it, but it's got to be done. It's all good for moving weight off those stones. We barely eat enough as it is.
Said XXXX.
I'm wasting away over here with only 3 meals a day. I'm a Doosbury Giant. I should be having 10.
Archelaus piped up
I have a suggestion.
and pressed a few buttons so that we were all on wheels, yet mysteriously staying upright.
There, now our sports can be concluded without any danger or unpleasantness caused to any of us.
No cheating.
Said Mrs. Maggrumph quickly.
That's so much reading.
She yelled at Jake, who was the only one not enjoying his ad hoc ride.
This is a lesson. It's not meant to be fun. Just suffer until it's done. It's all to keep you fit. You're not to enjoy any of it. They'll start working incredibly fast. There will be extra homework for whoever comes in last. You can't have it both ways.
Received Bettina.
I don't understand, adults. 1 minute they're asking us to keep still and quiet. The next they're asking us to run around with more energy. Then after we've used that energy and we're high on adrenaline, they tell us off for being too noisy. I mean, which is it? Why can't we just be true to ourselves? Right now we're in a keeping still kind of mood. An extra knock around the block,
Said Mrs. Maggrumph.
and not away to the right time on the clock. Reputation will be dealt out to anyone cheating. Original imitating, Mekkion's using technology, or Doosbury Giant's eating. It's an energy bar.
Said XXXX, looking sad.
Give me energy.
He explained helpfully.
I can't do all this without it. Radiant colours is dangerous to Doosbury. Well, boo-hoo-hoo,
Said Mrs. Maggrumph, a hand on the hips.
and I'm up for you. Well, at least it wasn't as bad as we were fearing.
Said Bettina under her breath to Robin, and mimicking the teacher's rhyming couplets.
Last week she had us orienteering.
Don't worry, Penguin, said Lando comfortingly. If we're outside all day running around, that's bound to be better for your dyspraxia and coordination than being trapped indoors writing and cutting things out. Said Robin, struggling to balance already. About that. We set off round the yard, some of us slower than some others. I tagged along with Hermione, Elfrida, XXXX and Robin at the back. I'm glad it's not just me that hates these lessons, said Robin with a grimace. I thought you'd all be whizzing past me.
Oh no,
Said Elfrida.
Mrasianarts don't really do sport, or indeed anything physical. We tend to see our bodies as a temporary vehicle to transport our minds around in, rather than something to celebrate or test. On days like today, I think that's highly sensible.
XXXX laughed.
We Doosbury Giants feel the same way about minds that you do about your bodies. They are merely something to make sure we remember our next meal so we can become big and strong. Even so, using up all that precious energy you've just made for yourself seems like a waste of time to me.
Suddenly there came a loud snoring. Wait, said Robin, is Hermione actually sleep jogging? Elfrida laughed. Well, that's one way of getting through this, I suppose. We'd better help her round the corners, though. Unused to talking while walking, though, Robin tripped and found herself clutching at air, only to fall on top of a Habridat, who in turn fell on top of Squash again, who gnashed his teeth angrily. While this was happening, they knocked into Bettina, who in turn banged into Lando, who ended up taking out Archibald, Elfrida, Margalo, and finally XXXX, who came down with such a crash that the tremor lifted Jake up into the air and sent him sailing back indoors, where he went straight into the television, clinging from the aerial. Sorry, Robin said, helping her friends up.
Another 15 points taken off everybody for coming off their feet,
said Mrs. Maggrumph, not looking up.
except Maggrumph. Well, this is turning into a repeat. No one can be found physically illiterate. This must all be deliberate.
No, said Robin, I couldn't help it. I'm not good at this.
What, walking? What are you good at exactly, you left-legged cow?
Continued the teacher.
How can anyone else be friendly with you now? Look at what you've cost them. Look at what you've lost them. You're lucky no one was hurt. Even so, I bet they'll treat you like dirt.
It was a mistake, said Robin helplessly. I'm not good when I'm upright.
You're also not much good deceit,
carried on the Maggrumph.
Like I said, do it or repeat.
Robin went to retrieve Jake, who was a little dazed and dusty, but none the worse for his experience. Then Squash, who was gingerly trying to get up from under a confused XXXX, apologising to them all in turn. Hermione, who had slept through the whole thing, was finally waking up. She said with a start.
Oh, it's just you, Peggle. I was having this awful nightmare. I was in a PE lesson. Wait, why am I wearing shorts?
The dystopian stirrings of your subconscious have become an unfortunate reality,
said Elfrida, grabbing the other side of Hermione and helping her to her feet.
Oh,
said the Habridat.
that's not nice.
Chap with wings, another lot for nothing, and no more chatting,
called Mrs. Maggrumph from the perch indoors, where she had her feet up in a comfy chair, with a cocktail with a straw and a newspaper. I'm so sorry, continued Robin, rubbing her elbow. Sorry. My stupid body messed everything up. This is the first day I dreaded. Even worse than at my school, and things were going to be so different this time. Now you'll all hate me, just like my old class did. She looked over at Bettina. Just as you were beginning to trust me too.
Nonsense,
smiled the Belobrat.
That was some spectacular pile-up. I couldn't have caused more damage if I tried to.
She saw Robin's face drop.
No, don't worry, Penguin. One of us was bound to have an accident sooner or later. I mean, just look at Margalo in those shorts. It's enough to put anybody off their running.
You're really not mad? The Belobrat shrugged.
You're more one of us than if you were perfect, like the little fancy antlers over there. I don't know if you've noticed, but most of us have got something wrong since you've been here. We all know humans are clumsy too. I mean, with those things too, wouldn't we?
Robin looked down. It's really not my feet. Bettina shrugged again.
Human feet probably don't help, though. I mean, look at these sturdy things.
She pointed to her own feet, rounded at the bottom.
Belobrat legs are the best. I went down like a ton of jelly,
said XXXX.
Again. Good job I'm soft on the outside. You're pretty soft on the inside too,
muttered Hermione. Are you all right, Robin? Said Lando alarmed. I was so hoping everything would go right for you from now on. I'm fine, she said gratefully. How is everyone else, though? To our relief, it seemed as if everyone was okay, even Squash, who had fared worst. You're not mad at me, said Robin in surprise as she looked round at everyone's concerned faces. They would have been in my old class.
You are a human after all,
said Elfrida, laughing and levitating just a fraction above the ground, so she wouldn't get walloped.
Mistakes are easily mended if one's aptitude is correct.
It wasn't your fault, Penguin,
said Bettina cheerfully.
It's that teacher's fault, making me job when I should be napping. It's against the Habridat constitution. I shall get that Maggrumph mogul for this,
said Hermione through gritted teeth as she jogged past.
You wait till our lessons are over for the day. I'm going to pay her back this very night.
What was that about passing through a ventilation shaft? I have some other ideas for you while you're there.
Finally the lesson was over, and we were all collapsed in a heap at Mrs. Magrumph's feet.
You're all very slow, she said. And no day this week, well, as I can go. All right, even I've had enough of this. What is this?
Squeaked Jake from underneath his portable table.
Don't leave me outside.
Come in with us, then,
Cried Bettina as she stepped inside.
I can't.
He squeaked.
Claustrophobic.
Everyone groaned,
All right,
said Archelaus, muttering as he did something to the portable table now perched on Jake's head.
I fitted a sunroof. Whatever weather it is outdoors, indoors if you look up, will always be a sunny. Okay?
Heaped Jake, running off to play. Nicely done, Archelaus, said Robin, impressed.
It's nothing.
Said the Mekkion.
You can't use your box of electronic tricks for your friends. Who can you use it for?
He whirled himself off after Jake, leaving Robin to drop into step, with Hermione behind. She was still cleaning pebbles out of the feathers.
Adult,
She hissed.
you wait till I pay that teacher back.
Grasped XXXX, who had turned a funny colour.
I've burned off so many calories, I'm going to have to fit 3 balls into one.
He certainly seemed thinner than he had when he set off. We followed him into the kitchen, where none of the rest of us felt much like eating, so we gladly handed most of our food vouchers over to him.
It's a gas giant with metabolism thing.
He explained between great mouthfuls.
We need more calories to keep our bodies going than other species. My planet wrote to the headmaster when they sent the shuttle when they took me, but I got hungry and I ate the note.
Well, at least we spent some time outside, sighed Lando. Brief freedom from these 4 walls.
Freedom?
Asked Hermione.
Forget it. One tiny yard is all they give us when there's a whole universe out there to explore. Terrible.
This is awful, said Lando. Things are getting really dangerous for some of us. I worry about what we're going to do next.
Worry no more,
Said Hermione, grinning.
Robin, do you still think you can get up to that ventilation shaft?
I'll give it a try, said the human. Why? Hermione didn't answer.
Elfrida, do you still have one of your karma machines?
I think so.
She said, feeling in her pocket before remembering she still had her shorts on.
Oh, I see. We're going to get into a lot of trouble for this, you know.
She thought.
Wait, I'm going to get into a lot of trouble for this. You'll know it's mine. Only Rose makes them.
Not if they can't find it,
Said Hermione, looking sneaky.
Karma machines always return to their original hiding place after being ignited, so if that was good enough, they'll never find it. Besides, if there's a prank being played, the first thing you do is blame Habridat. Everyone knows that. Plus, if our teacher had been well behaved and didn't have a guilty subconscious, the machine wouldn't get her in the first place.
Laughed Bettina. What is a karma machine? Asked Robin.
Oh,
Mrasianart replied.
once you set it up, it plays pranks on anyone within a certain set radius who had a guilty conscience, whether consciously or subconsciously. Came in very handy at the end of the province wars, but I guess you haven't got to that page in class yet.
No fear, said Robin. I'm weeks behind the rest of you. Even trying to catch up with homework last night, President Eleron's only just landed on Decreeta.
Well, anyway, how about Robin crawls through the ventilation shaft while she's doing everything else and places the karma machine somewhere overhead, near the staff room?
Asked Hermione.
They'll never think of looking up there, and if you do, they won't have a clue how it got there. This is still quite a new building. I bet no one's thought to explore all of it yet. If they do come across it, we'll just assume it was left here by the builders, or something.
Yes, but what does this machine actually do? Asked Robin. Hermione grinned and pulled Bettina out of a conversation she was having with Jake, Lando, Archelaus and XXXX by who could balance the most cream buns on their nose. Bettina grinned.
When Hermione first came and fell asleep when I was talking to her, I thought she was rude. Anyway, I thought I'd pay her back for being rude to me. Was a bit of a bully. All right, a lot of a bully. When I was rude to Elfrida too, discovered this dratted thing under my pillow every single night. Could never work out how it got there. In the morning, my third head had its hair shaved off, my pyjamas had changed colour, and my second hand got stuck to my nose, while my tongue went near for the rest of the day. Everyone I met, I got into such trouble.
She broke into a huge grin.
It was hilarious. If I ever go back to Helisphere after this, I'm buying every karma device they've got in stock and taking them all with me.
She paused.
We're good friends now, though, aren't we? No need to do anything else to me. The best,
Said Hermione, putting a feathery wing round her shoulders.
I'm sorry too. For my part, I didn't know being thick, rude and ignorant was a Belobrat trait when I first met you.
Hey now, wait just a minute,
said Bettina, the compliment insult passing across all three heads in quick succession. The next second she was rolling on the floor with Hermione, the pair of them in peals of laughter, as they tackled and tickled each other. Without knowing it, both were soon sitting on top of Squash. Bettina reached up for a food replicator machine and aimed it at Hermione.
Food fight.
She cried.
No,
Said XXXX hastily.
not a food fight. Food isn't for fighting. I don't eat fighting equipment, do I?
What is going on in here? Asked Mr. Clandusprod, walking in, just in time to be hit round the head with a jam donut.
Nothing, sir,
Said Hermione quickly. Doesn't look like nothing, said Mr. C. He poked his tongue out. It doesn't taste like nothing either. Earth raspberry jam, if I'm not mistaken. Something seemed to occur to him and he shook the stuff off his face. Get it off me, he cried. Just in case it's contaminated, he said hastily.
It was an accident.
Said Bettina. It's a lot of chaos for one accident, he said. I have a lot of accidents, said Robin, blushing. I'm sorry, I don't mean to. I just do. I'll clean it up. Mr. Clandusprod looked doubtful. No house points for anyone in this room for the rest of the day, he said, writing names down. I'm holding all of you equally responsible.
That's not fair.
Said Bettina.
Blame us too if you want, but the others had nothing to do with it. Do you seriously think XXXX would take part in a food fight if he could eat it?
Mr. C looked at the Doosbury Giant, sadly licking the floor, and said, No, I suppose not. You two are definitely culprits, though. 100 lines each. I shall not misuse school property. And Robin, 100 lines for trying to get her friends out of trouble. Now, what was it I came in here to tell you? Oh yes, I've been watching your sports prize, and I've worked out the new school teams.
Oh, good.
Said Bettina, interested.
Do we get to meet pupils from any planet then? Another school? Even another class would be good right now.
No, said Mr. C quickly. Not yet. We are having teething problems over that, but I want you all to be at the peak of your physical fitness for when we show the universe what you're capable of. How much higher, faster, and stronger you can go than anyone else. Isn't that the Olympic motto? Asked Robin quietly, but no one replied. The teacher carried on. I can film it and send the video off to prospective clients. I will even film you now when you do a few laps around the yard. Here are your positions for foosball for you to see.
Yahoo, said Hermione. Foosball, all right.
What's that? Asked Robin. We don't really play it on Earth.
You will, said
Hermione.
It's the bestest, most exciting and original game ever invented. You're all sending a team to the Olympics, I know. It's so much better than anything you have on Earth, Penguin. You see, you kick a ball. Well, then you can start. You kick the ball the furthest down the pitch it will go. You whack it in goal with a stick.
Oh, said Robin, like hockey.
Raised above your head.
Oh, said Robin, like lacrosse.
Well, aiming for start.
Oh, said Robin, like cricket.
Or the opposing team can tackle you to the floor.
Oh, said Robin, like rugby.
Or get your ball into a hoop.
Oh, said Robin, like basketball.
Or also getting it to bounce over a net.
Oh, said Robin, like tennis.
And into a cup.
Oh, said Robin, like tiddlywinks.
Yes.
Concluded Hermione.
I suppose now I think about it, foosball's a little like all those Earth games, and not that original. Anyway, it's great fun. Let's see where we've all been placed. We need 11 on a team if there are 11 of us. Oh yes, I'm a winger.
It's pronounced Winger,
said Bettina, laughing.
No, that's a great position,
Said Hermione.
Where are you, Robin?
I'm left back, the human said with surprise. Gosh, I've never made it onto a team before. Mr. C coughed. Oh, Robin said, there's more. I'm left back in the changing room. Wait, Blotchy has been picked before me. Said Markelo.
The school parrot was picked before the Penguin. Robin came 12th in the contest with 11 people.
The teacher smiled. Well, our giraffe has shown an amazing turn of speed. If only we can get him to take orders. Oh, said Robin, trying not to cry. That's a shame. I really thought I was part of the team for once. Give it time, Penguin, said Lando, walking past. You're still new here. There's plenty of time to show what you can do. Oh, look, I'm goalie. Yes, sighed Robin, but I can't show what I can do if I can't actually do any of it. I feel so alien. Now quiet, said Mr. C. Oh, and for Sprod's sake, get changed out of your PE kit before Mrs. Maggrumph sees you.
A million marauding Mekkions on marimbas. I'd forgotten we hadn't changed yet, said
Bettina.
Oh, well, it would be easier to clean up like this.
Mr. C left.
That was a near thing.
Whispered Bettina.
Thank you for trying to cover for me, Penguin. You're truly one of us now.
That's all right, said Robin. I may as well turn my clumsy superpower into something positive. I'm sorry it didn't quite work and we ended up with lines. I was already sharpening my pencils before Robin, Bettina and Hermione could put on my best smiles and ask,
Colin, you're looking lovely today.
Now writing, that was a sport. Not playing defence on some foosball team. How could I possibly write while trying to defend against rogue foosballs? It took me 7.5 minutes to write out all the lines, as I was simultaneously busy with eating my lunch and trying to keep up with my manuscript. By the time I had it ready, everyone had got dressed.
You'll never guess what I'm wearing.
Elfrida called to Archibald seductively.
Clothes?
He deadpanned,
Logically, your school uniform.
and put the Mrasianart in a bad mood for the rest of the day. Relocated to the hall, and the conversation had moved on to the staff shortages. So when do we get another teacher? Asked Robin. I really don't like the one we've got. Hermione laughed bitterly.
Oh, there's only Mrs. Maggrumph and Mr. Clandusprod. The money went elsewhere, shall we say? A bit like your Robin Hood story.
Wait, said Robin. There's only 2 teachers for the whole school. Only 2 that we ever see, said Lando. If there are others, they're out the back and staying very quiet. There's supposed to be a headmaster. We've never actually seen him. But there is other classes, right? Out there somewhere,
If there are, we've never seen them.
said Bettina.
Or heard them. Now, let's face it, if they're anything like as noisy as us, we would have heard them by now. All we hear at night is some sort of mechanical sound, as if something is being manufactured. We thought there was a woodwork lesson taking place at first, but if there is, there must be in detention for a very long time, as it's been going weeks without a pause now.
Just then there was another rumble and shake, which was enough to cause Jake's electric toothbrush to fall out the bathroom, bounce, and fall on top of Squash.
Not to mention whoever the heck keeps causing that.
Said Bettina.
My first thought was tectonic plates,
Said Archie.
but I've checked. They were not on full time.
Said XXXXX.
I could fit a lot of lunch on a tectonic plate. They're huge.
That's all very weird, said Robin. This isn't like any other school I've ever been to. Yesterday I thought I was just a bit in shock. I wasn't taking things in properly, but no. Everything about this place is twisted,
Not ours.
said Hermione. I thought when I was being sent here it would at least be a richer, nicer, bigger school than my village one, even if it was full of aliens, said Robin. But I think this might be worse, and cheaper. She fell off her chair as she said this, on top of Squash. They clearly have a budget to ship us all out here across the stars, so why not just use more budget on lessons and equipment? That one we had this morning was awful. Yet they still have lots of money for all this recording stuff out here nobody seems to use. I don't understand it,
I'll say.
said Hermione.
I never want to hear anything about blasted Belobrats and blue hats ever again. The amount of anguish children would have been saved the universe over if they'd been born colourblind.
Oh, well,
Said Elfrida.
I've been trying to piece this together. I do believe our individual planets were fed up with keeping us, and said if the IPO was truly an intergalactic organisation, that's the Intergalactic Peace Organisation, then they could take care of all of us. They were willing to pay the fare to ship us out here because it was cheaper than taking care of us till adulthood, especially as adulthood can be centuries away in some species.
That's logical.
Agreed Archibald,
Here though, they have no money.
concluded Elfrida.
It seems a very hand-to-mouth existence indeed. 2 teachers, 2 rooms, almost no equipment except some mouldy old books that were handed out for free across all the known planets a century ago.
You mean we've been forgotten? Asked Robin.
Exactly.
Said Hermione, slamming her feathery winks on our table.
Out of sight, out of mind. Nobody really knows we're here, and even fewer people care. We're just an entry on some trick accountancy sheet somewhere.
That seemed outrageous. But we can't have been forgotten. Someone must know where we are and be keeping an eye on us, said Robin.
Not in your life, human, chuckled
Bettina.
We're only children, or so Mrs. Maggrumph likes to keep reminding us. What Orpheus is going to care about a scrabbly bunch of orphans like us? We don't matter to anyone. Not anymore.
But we'll be adults one day, Robin said. She looked into Bettina's intense 6 eyes. Won't we?
None of us know.
She said.
The darkest rumour is they kill a lot of us when we run out of schooling to give us. There's no trade to be had anymore, no apprenticeships, not in the universal recession. So they try to kill us by lessons. And if that doesn't work, we'll just boot us out into the big wide universe with nothing.
Robin was clearly struggling to take all this in. But wasn't the IPO utopian? I was brought up on tales of how we defeated the Agrosians with nothing more than a statue and a few choice words. I mean, I still haven't done my homework and read the book, but I've heard the stories.
I don't think. Poor you, laughed
Bettina, and dropped her voice to a whisper.
That was 100 years ago. Rumour has it that was a very sanitised account of what really went on too. It was President Deleron who was the aggressor, not the Agrosians. They wanted peace and trade.
Who says? I asked nervously.
People,
said Hermione.
the government, the Agrosians themselves.
Of course, I never believed a word of it myself. Or all that gushing romantic nonsense and endurance. Or all those awful songs and insurgents.
Bettina laughed.
I could have written the whole trilogy better than me. The writers were all far too full of themselves.
The rest of the gang trooped in just then, catching the end of our conversation. So why set up a school at all if they don't have the means to run it? Asked Robin.
Siphoning funds for themselves.
Suggested Archulus.
I wouldn't put it past Mrs. Maggrumph to be making money off it.
Hey,
Said Elfrida.
maybe when you're placing the karma machine, you could have a quick sweep round the staff room. None of us have actually seen it.
Well, I'll tell you one thing.
Said Bettina.
Being a teacher and spending time around children certainly isn't a natural calling, is it?
Hermione spread her talons out so they made the click-clacking sound of a teacher's high heels and stuck her wingtips up over her head to act like antlers.
Look at me, everyone. I'm Mrs. Maggrumph. I'm Ensconce too. I bring you all glue. I'm a stupidest person in the room.
Everyone giggled.
Why are you laughing?
She mocked, still in character.
I've no humour. Someone said they thought they saw me smile once hundreds of years ago, but that was just a rumour.
I'm sorry for what she did to you, Penguin, said Lando. She likes going for fresh blood. She seemed almost unhinged today. She was rather, said Robin. But I feel better now I know it isn't just me she picks on. And you've all helped me,
That's all right.
said Bettina.
You can't help being hideously clumsy. What?
She said as Lando glared at her.
Did I say that wrong? I meant endearingly clumsy.
Robin decided to let it pass. Thank you, everyone. I feel I could take on anyone now. She glanced round nervously. We don't have her again this afternoon, though, right?
No,
Said Archulus, consulting the timetable. Not,
till tomorrow.
Thanks, Rob, for that.
said Bettina.
When you're our age, tomorrow is ages away.
Later, I found Archulus fiddling with his left arm circuitry. I looked up at him, asking him with my eyes if he was all right.
Funny thing,
He said conspiratorially.
it's almost as if somebody had stuck a screwdriver right into the middle of my arm to take a sample. I certainly haven't done it though, and I wouldn't let anyone else do it either. I don't know how long it's been there, but I only noticed it today, changing after PE.
He made some makeshift repairs,
Oh well,
he said, clenching his arm.
he's losing it. Whoops!
Suddenly, without warning, his arm extended and caught poor Squash on the back of the head as he was walking past.
Who did
The Agrosian exclaimed as he danced on the spot.
Watch where you're going, you imbecilic pile of bolts.
Fine, joined in Margalo as I tried to hold Squash back, but in nanoseconds Lando was in the middle, pulling them off each other.
Sorry,
Said Archulus.
complete accident. I didn't know you were there. Friends?
He pressed a button and his arm extended out.
Shake?
Squash looked him up and down and began to shake violently from furry head to furry foot.
Thank you.
Squash said.
Feel all better now.
Not quite what I meant,
Said Archulus.
but as long as you feel better.
As for you, said Lando to Margalo, stop stirring up trouble. It's like a powder keg down here as it is with so many species all confined together. Do I mean a powder keg? Or do I mean an atom bomb? Or do I mean a bath bomb? Oh well, you know what I mean really,
Oh, for Sprod's sake,
called Hermione.
keep the noise down over there. I'm trying to watch the telly.
I settled down on Robin's lap to watch. The BC channel was showing footage of the first intergalactic Olympic athletes arriving on Decreeta. XXXX had made a stack of pancakes and was handing them round with all our local cuisines on top. Maple syrup here, narwhals there, Camalosian gravy from my home world. Some nuts and bolts for Archulus. Even Margalo was there with us for once, helping herself to a moss smoothie.
That's
The Doosbury Giant said suddenly, dropping his plate on Squash in excitement.
She's dreamy. Do you think she'll be there when we go on that trip on Saturday?
XXXX is in love,
Cackled Hermione. XXXX sighed.
I'm not sure what love is,
He said.
though I do have a warm sensation around my tummy when I think of it, as if someone had just switched the toaster on.
if you go on that trip.
Said Margalo scornfully, sitting on Squash as she sat down, quite deliberately.
You're all about -7 points or something by now.
Don't you have to go and powder your antlers or something?
Asked Hermione.
I'm a member of this class too.
She said, unruffled.
I'm entitled to be here.
Only on suffering.
Said Hermione. Being in our class doesn't make you a classmate, said Lando. Wait, yes it does. I mean, it doesn't make you a mate, a friend, he corrected himself.
Oh yes it does.
The Maggrumph smiled.
Besides, it wasn't me who cost you all these points today.
She turned to Robin.
Your first day's not going very well so far, is it, Human?
Robin sighed. I could tell she was bracing herself for more disappointment.
She's more a member of this class than you'll ever be.
Hissed Bettina violently.
I've liked Penguin from the start.
But you said yesterday.
Began Marga helplessly.
I mean, look at all the things she's knocked over, the people she's tripped up, the mistakes and lessons. Not like me.
Or provoked
Said Bettina.
by your precious parent in there. Or by you.
What did I do?
Margalo protested. A faux innocent smile stuck halfway through its metamorphosis to genuine panic across her face.
You get away with everything.
Said Bettina.
Usually by pinning it to one of us. You're not as clever as they think, you know. Especially if you keep copying homework off one of us.
Margalo looked around, a little wide-antlered and helpless by now.
But I'm the popular one. Didn't you hear what the teacher said? And asked Mr. Clandusprod too.
Being popular in there
Continued Bettina.
doesn't mean you're popular out here. That's not how school works. If there's trouble, you're always causing it, or inflaming it, or contributing to it. And we've had enough of it.
But didn't you see what Robin did to you all? Losing all those points, just when you wanted to go on that trip too.
Margalo implored. Seeing it wasn't working, she continued.
You there,
She called to Squash from underneath her.
did you hear what she said about your mother? She said she was furry and red and stupid.
So she was.
Shrugged Squash, enjoying the sunshine.
I'm at peace with my legacy.
Oh, you're a useless bunch of aliens.
Cried Margalo.
Why do none of you have their own personality traits? I thought the Agrosians were really easy to rile up.
Not this one.
Said Squash.
Not anymore. I've calmed down a lot since coming here. Also,
Hey, pointed out Elfrida.
did you just talk without using exclamation marks just then? Do you know, I think I did.
Said Squash, smiling. On the television, the athletes were in training. Long-legged Mrasianarts lined up on starting blocks alongside super-strength Doosbury Giants, Mekkions with giant artificial leg blades, and Glabdiharbits already rolled up into a ball, because they were afraid of the starting pistol. The Clandusprods were going round, wishing everyone good luck. The Camalosians were debating the rules in great detail. The Belobrats were doing a premature victory dance. The Agrosians and the Magrumphs were eyeing everyone, gnashing their teeth and antlers at each other. The camera pulled out to show a number of Habridat athletes fast asleep at the starting line. Finally, after several Camalosian-linked delays, one member of each species lined up to take the start. Wait, said Robin, where are the humans? Hermione shrugged.
Maybe they didn't qualify.
But I thought everyone qualified, she said. That's the whole point of these games, isn't it? That everybody got the chance to compete against each other. There's one of everybody else.
Maybe there's a second heat later.
Hermione replied. There they are, next to the Agrosians, said Robin. They were running late. I wonder why they suddenly look so alive and energetic. All they've done is stand in the sun,
That's my Uncle Squish.
said Squash proudly. Which one? Asked Robin.
The tiny red one.
He said, confused.
The only one that looks like an Agrosian.
Oh, replied Robin, embarrassed. Just checking. There are so many hybrid creatures around nowadays. This training session was not going well. At the sounding of the starter pistol, one of the Glabdiharbits had run at a record pace, showing on the screen as a new intergalactic Olympic record. but in the wrong direction, so that they tore round the field backwards and into the path of the athletes that had only just started. Before too long, the inevitable happened, and the Doosbury Giant, who'd been limbering up ready to run, had been tipped on top of the Agrosian.
Family trait,
Sighed Squash.
do you think we can turn the television off now?
Well,
Said Bettina.
it would still beat lessons anyway. Just imagine what a thrill it would be to actually go there and see it in person.
Before too long, we were back in the classroom, handing in our homework. Our desks had now all moved round, which was a pity, as XXXX was in the front row, and none of us could see past him. Good, said Mr. Clandusprod. At first glance, you've all done your homework well. 10 essays on how you came to be on Decreeta, just what I was looking for. He turned to Robin. I would appreciate one from you too in time, Robin. I have a whole assignment written out here for you to take away. No hurry, though. I realise you are still adjusting to life here. Everyone else here has had weeks, except for Colin. I think it took him about 5 minutes to write his, he joked. I squirmed in my seat at the attention. First point of order, the teacher continued. As officially I'm head of stores now, rather than the teacher, it's down to me to check you have everything you need. So, does anybody need anything? There was an audible gasp in the classroom as I put my claw up. Notebooks, I said.
A new food replicator machine,
Said XXX guiltily.
one of the old ones, needs cleaning. After I tried to lick it.
Notebooks, I continued.
A new desk to hide under, with all the cushions.
Said Jake. Notebooks, I insisted.
A three-headed cushion.
Said Bettina eagerly.
I mean, these brains are important. I have to protect them.
Notebooks, I coughed.
A hot attack.
Said Squash.
The one in the bathroom is too bloody cold.
Notebooks, I raised a claw into the air. I have everything I need, beamed Lando, although some extra creature comforts of my friends would be lovely. Notebooks, I raised a second claw into the air.
A nightlight that's bigger than me, but not so bright it's scary.
Heaped Jake. Notebooks, I said, raising a third claw into the air.
My hammock has holes in it.
Said Hermione.
It's supposed to.
Pointed out Bettina.
Oh, yeah.
Laughed Hermione. Notebooks, I said, raising a fourth claw into the air.
I need something substantial to ease the burden of this sense of existential dread.
Said Elfrida.
But some sweets would do.
Notebooks, I said, raising my tail and falling off my chair. A window would be nice, said Robin. She wasn't prepared for the storm this set off. So far our teacher had been nodding politely and writing things down, while smiling. As far as I know, none of our requests had ever been granted, and this was just the game we went through each week. But, well, one day we might end up with what we wanted. Orpheus was a long way away from even Earth, its nearest planet after all. It made sense the post took a long time to get here. Suddenly, though, following Robin's request, Mr. C's face changed and he looked up and glared at my classmate. A window? What? Do you think I can just ring up the architect and get him to redesign the building? Why? For what reason would any of you possibly want to look outside? No, absolutely not. It's totally and utterly out of the question. Never ask again. I only meant, continued Robin sadly, I mean, Mekkion technology does wonderful things now. I just thought a window would be nice, so I could look out on my planet. Yes, well, we can't, said the irate teacher, so don't ask, and no more looking back. Your world is dead to you now. He looked as if she was going to leap from her eyes again. No books, I said, climbing back onto my chair. And pens. All right, Colin, said Mr. Clandusprod, calming down. I'll see what I can do. Right. Today, class, we will be studying the third volume of the Kindred Spirits trilogy, Province. The class groaned. Even so, there was a fizz in the atmosphere that had fallen so flat in the morning, a sense that now normality had been resumed, we could be ourselves in a way we never could with Mrs. Maggrumph.
Boring. That'll put us to sleep.
Complained Hermione from her nap. They were all three volumes rather ornate and overwordy, I wrote.
Too logical, not poetic enough for my taste,
Said Archelaus.
Too much violence.
Claimed Squash.
It wasn't scary enough.
Complained Jake.
They lacked an inner sense of spiritual growth and symbolism.
Said Elfrida.
The Mrasianart characters were pretentious.
She said, while doing yoga from the back of a chair and opening her chakras.
Those Belobrats are so unrealistic.
Said Bettina.
There's no way a Belobrat would chat on and on like that in real life. On and 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 on. Too many references to eating and food replicators,
said XXXX.
Besides, the book's so fat.
Great,
cried Margalo.
I'm already up to page 228.
I've never actually read it, whispered Robin, more to herself. I like them, said Lando, whom I was sorry after looking round the room and seeing everyone staring back at him. Enough, said Mr. C. This isn't a debate. Get out your books. Now then, I want you all to read to the end and then write about the importance of cooperation in the universe. Elfrida put a wing up, having obviously speed-read it.
But in the end, it wasn't cooperation that solved anything, sir. President Elrond could have flown several empty shuttles into space or projected a hologram, and the Agrosians would have backed down the same way. All the universe did was use it full flying to one planet that probably did more mental harm in the end.
Mr. C coughed. I'm sure that President Elrond had thought about it.
Also, the whole election fiasco seemed unlikely,
Said Elfrida.
Wouldn't the Belobrats who cheated just put themselves in charge straight away without using Elrond as a patsy?
Look, said Mr. C, this isn't a work of fiction made up by an author, you know. It really happened, so stop picking plot holes in it. Now, no talking, while you either read the rest of the book or start writing your essays. 2,000 words all right for everyone? He nodded at me. All right, Colin, 20,000 for you as normal will be fine.
Oh no.
Oh, I heard Bettina groan.
Even the dedication at the front's boring. I mean, no aliens were hurt during the making of this book. Seriously?
Yeah,
Growled Hermione.
wake me up when it's on TV and I'll study it then. Or an audio book, that would be good too. Though I bet they've got some really weird person reading it out. Hey, I know how to pass the time. Who from your home planet would you get to play your species, everyone? I want to imagine them in your head as you're reading.
Lawrence, or Oliver, said Lando.
Mr. T,
Said XXXXX.
or Hallie Doosbury,
Said Jake.
Bill or Murray,
Said Bettina.
Leslie Ash.
Said Squash.
Whitbistle,
Said Elfrida.
Hepburn,
Said Hermione. All right, now who would you get to direct it?
Hitchcock,
Jackson.
Said Jake.
Burton,
Said Bettina.
Benby Nash.
Said Squash.
JJ,
Said XXXXX. Lucas, said Lando.
Ixiogang.
Said Elfrida.
I may have pronounced that wrong because it's a human name.
next who would you choose to do the Foley with?
Asked Hermione. Hecka. All right, that's quite enough delaying tactics, said Mr. C. Get on with your work. We carried on in silence until the bell finally went. Before you go, said Mr. Clandusprod, a quick reminder about your school trip. There aren't many points in it. Probably. I haven't looked. Now, I know none of you are terribly interested in going around a dusty old museum, but it is mentioned in the final chapter of Insurgents, and I think this trip could be very educational and help with your studies, and I really want you to go. He dropped his voice as if trying to shield it from the microphones dotted round the classroom. Please, only the smartest get to go, and you're not that stupid. I know you're not,
we really want to go now, sir. We're going to work really hard.
said Bettina, the Olympics in her eyes, and everyone's heads nodded. Oh, said Mr. Clandusprod, clearly thrown by everyone's enthusiasm. Good. Class dismissed. Remember to put your chairs on top of your tables when you go out.
Why?
Asked Bettina as Jake struggled to painfully lift his chair onto his desk little bit by little bit behind them in slow motion.
We don't have any cleaners here. The caretaker does it all, eventually.
I know, said Mr. Clandusprod. There's no reason to do it at all. It's just an adult thing of power, because we like messing with your heads. Lessons over for the day. The class had gone their separate ways. XXXX had gone back to the kitchen to replenish his last few missing calories. Margalo had gone back to the other side of the building, and goodness knows where. Elfrida and Archulus were busy doing their homework while giggling. Well, Elfrida was. Archulus just looked confused. The rest of us were gathered in the hall, ostensibly watching the holovision, a quiz show entitled Game of Throws, in which various aliens were competing to win a tatty throw rug and looked about as bored as we were. BC Broadcasting really didn't seem to have much money, despite the quadzillions the IPO was supposedly handing out. Archulus showed me the spreadsheets full of demographics once during a particularly dull night. Lights Out was coming frustratingly soon. Far too soon, we all agreed. The children of our great age had already discovered the illicit joys of staying up late. We didn't have long to decide what to do about tonight,
Right then, quick, before Margalo comes back.
said Bettina.
Elfrida, fly up to this ventilation shaft and let's check how big it is and how easy it is to get through. Archulus, take measure, please.
Elfrida flew up, an extendable robotic device in her wings, which she used to measure the ventilation shaft. It looked very high up. I heard Robin gulp. The Mrasianart tried pulling the cover with her talons a few times, but without luck, even though she was straining really hard. Bettina, though, wasn't thrown.
Archelaus, rope please.
She said, hurling the end through the air until Elfrida caught it.
Tie it on good and proper.
She called before handing it to XXXX, who tugged at it very lightly, the whole thing suddenly giving way. The door to the shaft fell off and landed on Jake.
I didn't get squashed! I didn't get squashed!
Yelled Squash with delight, running round and round until he ran into the back of XXXX and caused the Doosbury Giant to fall on top of him.
Oh,
Shush, said
Bettina quickly.
the adults might only be in the next room, you know.
Thankfully, no one seemed to notice the noise.
A good job they're used to us making a racket in here. I love it when a plan comes together.
Grinned Bettina, before going back to barking orders.
Right, Elfrida, come back down here and measure the human.
Before Robin knew what was happening, she was finding herself being spread-eagled by 9 aliens and all her limbs measured for height, width and depth.
It looks good,
Said Archelaus.
but mind XXXX doesn't give you too many of those human breakfasts of his. We might get stuck.
good luck.
Said Elfrida.
Break away.
Called Hermione.
May the logic be on your side.
Added Archelaus. You don't have to do this, you know, said Lando, concerned. No one will think any the worse of you if you back out. No, stuttered Robin. It will be fine, I'm sure. I mean, what can go wrong? May have been my imagination, but I thought I heard a quiet,
Yeah, right.
in a feathery voice from somewhere near the shaft.
Here you are.
Said Archelaus, handing her a square box.
This is a torch with custom navigational control. You turn the button on the left to go bright, the button on the right to find your way.
Oh, thank you, said Robin. And the button in the middle,
It's a secret compartment.
said Archelaus.
Dimensionally transcendental, of course. There's a grappling hook in there, and a walkie-talkie, and a crowbar, and an emergency flare. I put in a drink for you also.
Have some snacks too.
Said XXXX.
Not figured in the karma machine.
Added Hermione.
Just sneak it in somewhere. Mrs. Maggrumph is likely to walk, Penguin.
This is going to be hilarious. I bet she ends up tarred and feathered.
Starts Bettina, before looking her feathery friend up and down.
Sorry, she
Concludes.
touchy subject, I know.
Hermione glared back.
Feathers would improve anyone's features, especially yours, Bettina.
The Belobrat responded by running towards her, causing Hermione to fly off.
Oh,
She
she
called back down to Robin, and
if you happen to see a tin of paint you can prop it up to, or a cream pie, or a banana skin. Well, I'm not saying they have to be used, because that would be mean, but, you know, I'm not going to tell you not to put this near them either.
Take this too.
said Squash.
It's my emergency comfort Agrosian. All Agrosians have copies of themselves in ragdoll form. It's meant to bring them good luck. The idea is that the doll gets all the bad luck instead of you.
He rubbed his back legs.
Not that mine seems to be dead and working lately, but perhaps you'll get better luck, Penguin.
I'm not going in there for long to need all these things, said Robin, suddenly worried. Am I? Before long, Elfrida and Hermione had her by the armpits, were carrying her to the ventilation entrance. Robin grabbed the corners of the shaft with her fingers, and was busy hauling herself up.
Hooray! Let's hear it for opposable digits.
Cried Archelaus.
Everything all right?
Asked Elfrida as Robin disappeared into the dark. I think so, she replied. They need a good dust up here, though. Oh, it's all different colours. Some of it's red,
Of course.
said Archelaus from down below.
Why would dust particles be the same for every species? We come in all sorts of colours. Fact.
Robin's voice got more and more distant as she crawled away from us so that we had to strain to hear her. I'm at the end, she said finally. I think it goes out into the corridor, but I can't seem to get it open.
Use the crowbar.
Hissed Elfrida down the shaft. There was a noise like the popping of a cork. Then silence. I'm amazed no one heard that, said Robin. Blimey, that caretaker's not been anywhere around this part of the school. There are so many cobwebs up here. I'd hate to meet the intergalactic spiders that made them.
Spiders only exist on Earth,
Hissed Elfrida.
so unless you brought some with you in your pocket, you should be safe.
Then what are all these webs? Called Robin. Yuck,
Now,
said Elfrida.
a Mrasian delicacy. I brought some with me on my first journey here, but they escaped out my pocket. I wonder where they're gone.
Well, hissed Robin, the good news is they had lots of babies and you now have a lot more pets to enjoy. The bad news is they've turned feral. Ow! Suddenly there was a clattering noise. Robin was clearly in trouble. Everything went silent at her end.
We have a code roulette,
Cried Bettina. What does that mean? Asked Lando, concerned.
I don't know,
Said Bettina in a panic.
but it isn't good.
Everybody calm down.
Said Squash.
She's a bright girl. I'm sure she'll be fine.
Oh, Robin, said Rando, rubbing his hands helplessly. What have we done?
Tell her to use a walkie-talkie.
Hissed Archulus. Elfrida passed on the advice as best she could. Still no reply.
Anything your end?
Asked Bettina to the Mekkion.
My end?
He said in surprise.
Yes,
She hissed.
and the other walkie-talkie.
I only had one, and she's got it.
He said, and his face fell.
And how do we communicate with her, stupid?
Miss Bettina. Archulus looked confused.
Oh, Belobrat brothers.
Said Hermione, slapping a beak with her wings.
For a Mekkion, you all have fix sometimes, Archie.
Is that how walkie-talkies work?
He asked.
I never realised.
I know you're a child prodigy and everything, Archulus, but sometimes you're more child than prodigy.
He snapped Hermione.
I am still a child.
Said Archulus sadly.
We all are. Fact.
Well, Robin won't grow any older if Mrs. Maggrumph captures her.
Said Hermione.
Fact. So what do we do now?
Oh, said Bettina.
These two scaredy beings aren't going to go after her. The rest of us won't fit. And Margalo will be back any minute for lights out. We've lost our only chance. She's going to be found, probably expelled. Poor Penguin. I really liked her too, from the moment I met her.
I breathed in deeply, put on my brave face, and tugged Bettina on the arm, making a flying motion with my arms.
Seriously?
She said.
You, Colin? But I thought... Well, you don't, do you? You only observe. And you hate heights. We've been nagging you to go through that ventilation shaft for days and you wouldn't budge.
So I did, and so I had. But my friend was in trouble. A friend I knew I had let down several times today, and I had to do something.
Well,
Said Bettina thoughtfully.
if you're sure...
Barely in time to take enough notebooks and pens with me, I found myself being swung by the Mrasianart and Habridat through the still open ventilation shaft, and trying not to look down. Just in time too, for I heard the door going and a cry of,
Go Maggrumph!
Margalo must have been back in the building. Pausing at the edge, I could hear a preening voice from way up here, along with 8 nervous children whistling and trying to sound nonchalant. Margalo, said Lando. How nice to see you. Is that a new necklace hanging from your antlers? I heard a sniff.
Let's chat, Pratt.
She said.
Stop being daft. Hey, did you feel a draft?
No.
Said Bettina quickly.
What an imagination you have, Margalo. You're just in time for a nightly story. Hermione, we'll tell you what it is.
But she's not on the road to Colin is. I said I'd read for her.
Started Archulus before it sounded as if Elfrida trod on his robotic foot.
I mean, carry on, Hermione. I'm looking forward to it. Fact.
Okay,
Said Hermione, her voice fading as I got further away from her.
the Habridat princess and the quail fruit. Once upon a time there was a princess who only slept 15 times a day, which as you know is nothing to a Habridat. She tossed and turned but couldn't sleep at all at the 16th time of trying. Soon she found herself looking through a mattress and remembered that she'd invited the Doosbury Giant to supper the night before. He was a very messy eater.
In the ventilation shaft it was dark. I could barely see to write these words down as I put one claw in front of the other, comforted by the click-clack of my feet as I padded along. It was a narrow squeeze for me in here. I can't even imagine what it must have been like for Robin. Many times I considered going back, but I was worried about my friend and forced myself to go on, taking deep breaths and trying not to think any further ahead than one footstep at a time. I steered myself to walk on. Plod, plod, plod. Focus, focus, focus. Don't think, don't think, don't think, don't overthink, don't overthink, don't overthink. I was used to living in the moment after all. The past and the future both looked very scary. Mind you, the present wasn't too great right now either. Plod, plod, plod. Keep going. Colin. Finally, eventually, I found one of my feet dangling over the edge of the shaft and onto thin air. I heard a groan, and peering through the darkness could just about make out a human-looking foot. It looked as if Robin had fallen all the way to the ground. The caretaker's mop was sitting on her head, which must have fallen there from impact, though she looked otherwise unhurt. It seemed on closer inspection as if a ragdoll of squash had broken a fall. At least it looked as if no one had heard her, though I wasn't sure how. The teachers and caretaker must be in another part of the building altogether, or maybe outside, where I noticed there were strange cracking sounds, like some giant earthquake taking place, and some strange light that kept glowing. So Elfrida was right after all then. But how to get to my friend? I looked around in the darkness and just about made out the handle of the door. Swinging my legs and trying not to look at the ground, I turned myself round until my legs were dangling over the top of the handle, gulping down great breaths and trying my best to think about the takeoff rather than the landing. I jumped down, bounced off the handle and onto the floor beside Robin. The door creaked noisily from my impact. It was this, I suspect, rather than me, that woke the human up. "Another 5 minutes, Mummy," she said before going back to sleep. I nudged her with my head. When that didn't work, I licked her with my tongue. "Colin," she said sleepily, "I didn't know you cared." I nudged her harder until she sat up. "This isn't my bed," she said. "Have they been moving the furniture around again?" "Oh, wait. What happened? Did I fall?" I nodded. "Clumsy idiot," she said. "Clumsy, stupid human idiot. How is anybody going to trust you to do anything now?" She breathed into rage of the universe again, but then looked at me. "Wait, how did you get here? I thought you were too scared to go when Bettina suggested it before." I shrugged and pointed at her before giving her a hug. "Oh," Robin said, genuinely touched and looking as if she was about to start sobbing again. "That's probably the nicest thing anyone's ever done for me. I know you don't talk much, but I already felt as if we were really good friends. Now I think we might be bestest friends." She smiled at me. "Remind me to make you a friendship bracelet when we get back inside. I used to make them with my friends back when I had some. You wear them on your wrists, or I could put yours on your tail." She paused. "But just how are we going to get back up?" she asked. "Any ideas, Colin?" I shrugged. "Well, we can't be discovered here. We'll be expelled. Both of us. I'm not going through that again." She turned to me. "Would it be that bad, though? I mean, I would miss everyone horribly. This school is a bit of a dump." She looked at the dust that had fallen down around her. "Make that a lot of a dump. This place really needs a new caretaker, and some of that money that's supposedly been spent on it. For a new building, this place is falling to bits. It's like a giant volcano's gone off outside or something." I put my nose in at the door that had just opened. "Are we all allowed in there, Colin? It does say keep out on the door." "Oh well," she sighed, "I guess we're going to get into trouble anyway." Ooh. The room was apparently a staff room, but not like any staff room either of us had ever seen before. It looked to all intents and purposes like a scientist's laboratory. Test tubes were piled up in every nook and cranny. Television monitors, 11 of them, were twinkling away, each one following a different member of the class. Robin and I gasped as we followed the eye lines, from Bettina manically waving her arms to Margalo's bored expression, XXXX dropping crumbs and making mental notes where to go later when he got peckish, to the inside of Jake's blanket fort, where all that could be seen of him was a pair of eyes, to Hermione in her hammock pretending to sleep, to Archelaus calming himself down by counting out prime numbers on a bit of paper, and Elfrida resting but looking worried on top of the roulette board. Finally we looked at the two newest cameras, which were looking straight at us. "I don't understand," said Robin. "Why is all this equipment here? What does it all mean? I heard the others talking about cameras, but I didn't really believe it till I saw all this." Exploring further, she turned a corner and fixed her eyes on a whiteboard with names pinned to the wall. Everyone's names were listed as follows:
Clandusprod, Lando, Codependency, Mrasianart, Elfrida, Lost Mrasianart Spirituality, Belobrat, Bettina, Shy, Habridat, Hermione, Intense, Glabdiharbit, Jake, PTSD, Maggrumph, Margalo, Can't Make Friends, Mekkion, Archelaus, OCD, Doosbury Giant, XXXX, Eating Disorder, Agrosian, Squash, Anger Management, Camalosian, Colin, Passive Camalosian Observer Disorder, Human, Robin, Dyspraxia, Look up, Archibald, Intelligent.
Everyone's name had a ticks next to them, down to Squash, whose tick looked as if it had only recently been made. Only Margalo, Robin and me were missing ticks. "Ha, they got Margalo right," said Robin. "What's this about everyone else, though? Why is Blotchy included as part of the list with the rest of us? He's not a member of our class. And why weren't there ticks next to our name? Is it because we're the newest?" We looked at each other, confused. "I wish Archibald was here, Colin. If there was only a way to get a picture back to him somehow, he'd be able to work out what was going on logically. My brain can't make head or tail of it all, though." We looked round the rest of the room, but couldn't find anything else of interest, so we thought we'd better leave. On her way out the door, Robin tripped again and put a hand out to stop herself from falling, which knocked a button on the machine. In righting herself, she knocked the one next to it. In righting herself from that, she accidentally sat on a squishy container in the corner next to a radiator, which cushioned her fall. Suddenly the monitors for her and me started scrolling backwards, and we watched, wordlessly, as we went back up the ventilation shaft separately and out into the hall. Robin watching herself fall and wincing. Stopping the buttons at just the point where we were discussing going into the shaft, Robin hit the buttons again. A message reading delete flashed up on screen. "Do we press it?" asked Robin. I nodded, helping her hold the button down. Our two screens went blank. We watched, amazed, as other screens carried on as normal, Margalo going to sleep by pulling on her blindfold, pulling in her earplugs and applying her antler cream. Everyone else kept shiftily glancing up at the ventilation shaft. "Well, I guess that will hide anyone from knowing we've been here. We've got to get out of here, though, Colin," said Robin. "Wait, I almost forgot." She pulled the karma machine out of Archibald's box and jumped up on top of a filing cabinet that was too tall for even the teachers to see. She balanced it next to a mop, a water cooler, and a collection of tins of red paint, planted a banana peel she had got earlier from one of the food replicator machines, and turned the machine on. "Now we'll know who comes into this room," she said. "Be on the lookout for anyone looking wet or red tomorrow morning, and we'll know who's been in here." On our way out of the room, we spied a large pile of copies of Endurance, Insurgents, and Province, with our handwritten papers and notes sticking out of them. "Our homework," Robin said, passing it to me, to show me before taking it back again. "Only our homework too, by the look of it. No other papers anywhere." "Well, that just about settles it. We must be the only ones in this school. Either that or there's a room for every class, and we just happen to have found the right one for ours. I wonder what it's all for." "Well, I guess what we came here to do, Colin, and found out a few puzzling things we can share with the others too. Let's go now, before anyone comes in and it gets any darker." Feeling smug at a job well done, we went to try the door. "Wait," said Robin in a panic. "It's locked. The door must have swung back in on itself when we came through with a key in it. I so wish I wasn't so clumsy. We're trapped, Colin. We're going to be found, and maybe expelled after all. I'm so sorry." I looked at her in alarm, but also with what I hoped was a comforting look, that we were all in this together. In the silence we waited for what seemed forever. Over on the monitor, the lights had been turned out, and everyone was heading for what appeared to be a worried night without us. Robin remembered the walkie-talkie, but got no answer from it. Understandably, given that there was no connecting set, so a frustrated Robin stuffed it back in a box. We sat there for the next few minutes, watching ourselves not appear in the two beds in the middle of the hall on the monitors, until suddenly something sticky began to appear at our feet, oozing from a container Robin had fallen against earlier. Slowly, we realised it was glowing. Was this the mysterious light that Elfrida had been talking about earlier? "Oh no," said Robin in a panic, clutching at me and trying to get her feet away. "Red weed? What's that doing here? I guess I must have knocked it over. This stuff is poisonous. How do we get away, Colin? Who can help us now?" We both looked at each other and hugged tight in our despair.